compared to the intellectual prowess. Build and destroy the cipher, intellectual sword to slice you, or whatever device you recommend. Surgical, precise pen, hand get heated, the room will spin. If man gets heated, them goals will
Citizens, scholars, and warriors of the mind, welcome to the Arena of Truth. You are standing within the Titans Debate Coliseum, and I am your host, King J of the King's Chamber. Tonight, we do not draw steel. We draw from the well of history. We descend into the dust of first century to unearth the historical origins of Christianity. We are here to peel back the layers of time, to examine the Roman scrolls, the Jewish roots, and the Hellenistic world that gave birth to a movement that reshaped the map of the world. Our Titans are prepared. The evidence is laid bare. We will look at the facts, the myths, the tectonic shifts of the ancient Levant. But remember, in this Coliseum, the floor belongs to the wise. So listen closely, for once the Titans have spoken, the gates will swing wide. We will transition into an open panel later where your voices, the voices of the chamber, will be heard. So let the record show that today we seek not just to argue, but to understand.
hear the sounds of the trumpets. Start the rounds in the gauntlet. Get down or lay down when we stomp it. This the clash of the titans. Hear the sounds of the trumpets. Start the rounds in the gauntlet.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you so Billy. Right. Okay, James, brother of Jesus. Yeah. Okay, I certainly appreciate the warm welcome that you gave me just a moment ago. And I'm so glad to see all these happy, smiling, prosperous looking faces here. And I'm happy to be here because I'm among and around my own people. Okay? And give a hand for that. I want to thank Brother Miracle Ra for having the courage to bring me here. Mary Sanders, my good friend, she told Brother Miracle Ross, said, why don't you bring Walter Williams here? And, people have been hearing me on KGLH, and I'm talking about no Jesus Christ and no Prophet Muhammad and no Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, or Moses, and take your Bible and throw it in the garbage can, go up to the cross and take that dead white man off that cross and throw that in the garbage can. And then last year I told you to take God into the garbage can also. So, I'm a bad fella. See? So about I think this is my fourth time here. So 4 years ago, I got a call one evening. I was sitting home, relaxing, and the phone rang, and I said, hello. He says, this Dr. Walter Williams? I said, yes. He says, this is Reverend Richard Byrd. I said, uh-oh. What does a reverend want with me? I said, yes, sir, Reverend. He said, I want to invite you to be our guest. I understand you're coming to LA. I want you to be our guest at our center. And I'm thinking, this guy's a reverend now. Maybe what's up with him? He's going to try to get me in a trap somewhere. And these Christians are going to run out and get me, I said, I better call. See, I have my aunt lives here, and got cousins living here and got some more folks around in California. I said, I better call them up and wire them up. Bring the equipment with them. Yeah. So I told him, I said, okay, Reverend, I'll be there. So we made the arrangements and everything. So I said, now, what don't you want me to speak on? You know, because I'm sure I can't get in your church and say there's no Jesus Christ. So he says, no, I want you to be classic Walter Williams. So tonight, I'm going to be classic Walter Williams, okay? And I also want to thank my good friend, Mary Sanders. She's been supporting me here and talking about me and in a good way now. What was that? Calling up folks. What? Walter Williams gonna be in town. Yeah, Walter Williams gonna be in town. You know, right? Gonna be on the radio. All that kind of. Okay, so you know, fine. That's my good friend. That's what friends are for, right? Okay. And then I have my aunt who lives here, Aunt Canola. She's here somewhere. Where are you, Aunt Canola? Where? Okay, you should be in the front. Okay, but anyway, I'm glad that she could make it today. She's a very good supporter of me and my wife, which is her niece. And she's always in support of us. So I appreciate that. And then I have my sister-in-law from San Francisco is here, Emma. She barely made it here. Huffing and puffing, but she made it. So we're gonna give her a hand. Hey, Emma. And then, of course, my wife. You have to give the due and the homage to your wife. In other words, I can't stand before you without doing that because I'm going to say to you, Mayat Hotep. And without Mayat, there will be no Hotep, wouldn't it? Would be no. So without my wife, Mayat Arnetta, would be no Walter Williams. Okay, because she's that balance, you know. So you have to say Mayat Hotep. Okay. So we got in Friday, and we were invited to the FIBA Center. And our good friends are here, Billy and James, and there's a whole lot of other faces around that I see was there. And we had a good session. Good session. We had class. The class that we had was on the historical origin of the Bible. Some things that you will never, ever think about as connected to the Bible. I revealed it to you, okay? And this evening, I'm going to give a lecture on the Jewish myth exposed. Now, I was on Brother Marikar Ra's radio program Monday, and we had a little thing going between him and I. Nobody else knew it but him and I. And I said, you know, this Jewish myth exposed out there. You see, you got too many people around that are in positions that can get you out of your position, if you understand what I'm talking about. So we don't want to upset the apple cart. We wanted to have a continuation of that program. So he asked me, he says at the end, he said, what are you going to speak on? I said, I'm going to speak on religious myths exposed. And he broke out and started laughing. So if you ever have that tape, you hear him laugh at the end. And I had to laugh because it was funny, because that was our own little private joke, see? So anyway, I don't have to do that here, you see? I'm going to be classic Walter Williams. I'm going to give it to you raw, okay? And the title of my lecture, which I'm going to dedicate to my good friend, Mary Sanders. Where are you, Mary? Okay. All right. Stand up, Mary. Okay. So I'm going to get into that. Now, as I go around the country, people ask me, what about the Jews? You know, it's a mystery about the Jews. So we're going to clarify some things about the Jews. Okay, now, first thing you have to know about Jews is this. Judaism is a paper religion. A paper religion. What do I mean by that? Narrative stories written on paper about Jews placed in the Bible, fed into the millions and millions of Christians all over the world via the Bible. No matter what language you speak, what race you belong to, if you're a Christian, you're going to read the Holy Bible. Is that right? And in the Old Testament, in the Holy Bible, for all Christians, I don't care who you are, they got the literature sitting right there, written on paper about Jews. Is that right? The same thing with the Muslims. You got millions and millions of Muslims in the world today. Okay? And they come in many different races, creeds, and color, and they speak many different languages and dialects. They too have two things in common. One, that they all are Muslims. Two, that they read the Holy Quran. Inside of the Holy Quran, you have two bodies of literature in there. And you have the Pentateuch and the Psalms, written by Jewish scholars. And you have the four Christian Gospels are sitting right there in the Quran. So every Muslim, they go around and say, Assalamu alaikum. He reads that Quran with Jewish writings in there. So he's got the same thing that the Christians got in his mind, and he has it in his mind. Then you got the synagogue-going Jews, go around to little yarmulkes and you know, got the beards and stuff like that, and so forth and so on. And they read the Sefer HaTorah. Sefer means book, Ha means of, the Torah. Inside of the Torah are the same Old Testament that's in the Christian Bible, that's in the Quran for the Muslims, is now in the Bible or the Torah for the Jews. It goes to the synagogue. Now, are we following? Are you following now? Okay. Now, this is how people get carried away and miss the understanding about Jews. Now, back to what I first began to say, that Judaism is a paper religion with narrative stories written on paper, put into the Bible, the Quran, and the Sefer HaTorah, fed into the minds of people who embrace these various religions. Okay? Now, let me give you an example. You heard of the story of Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible? Okay? For all who hasn't, I'm going to give you a little rundown on it. They said that Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, Bible, that he went into Judaica, known as Jerusalem, took the Jews out of Judaica in 586 BC, took them into Babylon and put them into slavery. They also said in this story that Cyrus II the Great, the Persian king, went into Babylon in 537 and freed the Jews from bondage in Babylon and sent them back to Judea to build their second temple. Okay? Now that's fed into the minds of every Christian, isn't it? Every Muslim, including the Jews that goes to the synagogue. Now you got 6,500,000,000 people walking this earth as human beings. You take 500 million people out of that equation, and those people, those 500 million people, they don't believe or practice a religion. So the rest of the masses of people on earth is practicing some kind of religion, and the majority is of the three major Western religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Okay? Now, if an individual believed that story about Nebuchadnezzar taking the Jews out of Judaica, taking them into Babylon and putting them into slavery, guess what you have done? You have created a BC Jew. You did it by reading the stories in the Bible, believing in it. See? The Christians read that story. They believe that this is the Jew. They have created a human Jew from just reading and believing in the Bible, or the Quran, or the Torah. You follow me? Just on paper. It's done on paper. I'm telling you how it's done. You see? And then these synagogue-going Jews, you see them on the television, radio. It says the Jewish people. You off. See, because you already set up from reading the stories in the Bible that you believe so wholeheartedly that there were people walking the earth as human beings called Jews. See, and then he goes on and says the Jewish people, my people, and so forth, and make you, by way of an illusion, think that there are human beings walking the earth as Jews. Do you understand that much? So therefore, just from reading the stories on paper about Jews, you begin to believe and animate those stories in your life, feed it into your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind superimposes on you, and you believe that there was human Jews walking this earth. You see that? And they don't tell you any better, because that's what they want you to believe. They believe it too. Don't think they don't believe it. They're the same as the Christians or the Muslims. They believe that stuff. Okay? Now, you heard of Abraham, right? Let's get into Abraham, because Abraham is going to tear down the three major religions. Abraham is in the three major religions. This is how it's done. They tell you Abraham was born in Ur of the Chaldees. This is tradition. That his mother Terah took the family from Ur of the Chaldees, which is over in Babylon. Where's biblical Babylon? Was over in Iraq. But you don't get in Iraq until 1920, but that goes into another subject. That she took her family from Ur of the Chaldees into Haran. Where's Haran? Near, Syria. Okay? Because they're setting you up for something else. After the death of Terah, Abraham migrates a little east over into Canaan. All this is biblical. Where is Canaan today? Lebanon. This is what they call in Canaan, setting you up. Okay? So now, then they tell the people who read this junk that this is what it is. Because how can you sit there with an adult mind and read that the cousin of Abraham was named Lot? They said Lot looked over his shoulder and turned to what? South. Now you believe that? Hey. How can you How can you believe that? Then the story goes on to say that Abraham woke up one morning. He was horny. He was 100 years old, but he was horny though. And he went to Sarah, jumped from Abraham and Sarah now. The story is modulated. That he said, Sarah, look, I want you to have a baby for me. And she said, look, man, I'm 85 years old. I zipped it up a long time ago. I got a seal on it. She said, why don't you see your Egyptian handmaiden? They're always going to make our people some kind of slaves or something, some kind of handmaiden. She will have a baby for you. So here's Abraham, 100 years old. They didn't have no Viagra back then. He goes and gets Hagar. Ishmael comes out. Now, who is Ishmael? Ishmael, they send you up again, is a progenitor of the Muslims. See? Ishmael, the Muslims say Ishmael. They get all into it, Then all of a sudden, Sarah said, "Man, I can have a baby." So he gets with Sarah. You know what I mean? Again, here comes Isaac. Okay. Then Isaac has a son named Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. And he had 12 sons. They call them the 12 tribes of Israel. Is that correct? And this is how the story goes now. Now, they also tell you that Jesus was a Jew, right? And that we live in a Judeo-Christian country, the United States of America. Okay? Now, they got putting all this in your mind, right? See, all this stuff is myth. Now, you understand when I said that Judaism is a paper religion, how they did it, and how they're doing it, how they're still doing it to people who believe in these three major religions because they read the literature with these stories inside of their Bible, Quran, and the Torah. See? And now, I just explained to you about Abraham, right? That this Jesus was a Jew. Now, Jesus supposed to have come from the tribe of Judah. See, get the connection? Jesus is a Jew from the tribe of Judah. So Judah means Jew. Okay, fine. Now, I want you to keep that in mind now, because I got something for you. I've been telling you all along that there's never been an Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, or Moses, etc., etc. People have been fighting me and so forth and so on, which is okay. Then let's go to Moses, biblical Moses. Okay, they said Moses, there was old Pharaoh had put a hit out on all firstborn children. So you pull up your child, and this is the firstborn, we're gonna kill it. So Moses' mother takes some twigs and stuff and make a basket. Put the little baby Moses in the basket, and put it on the Nile River to float down to the Nile. And the Pharaoh's daughter retrieves this basket and takes little baby Moses out of it. And he raises the baby Moses in the house of the Pharaoh. Everybody heard the story, right? Yeah. Now, by the way, that basket today is called the Ark of the Covenant. It sits on the altar in all synagogues with the scrolls inside, with the law inside. And you know that this Moses is supposed to went up on the mountain and met God and receive these laws, right? So all it's symbolic. Just want to put that in there. Now, in the meantime, the baby Moses grows up to be an adult. And he is now seeing how old Pharaoh is doing his people. Now, old Pharaoh is our folks now. Old Pharaoh is the ones that these ministers talk about and browbeat, okay, in their churches and in their sermons. But he don't know any better. He's talking about his own folk, which is a lie now. So now, this Moses looks around Egypt and sees that the Pharaoh has got his people, talking about some Jews, into bondage, got them building the pyramid. Oh my goodness. And then he asked the Pharaoh to let his people go. Pharaoh said, no way. So 10 biblical plagues came down on ancient Egypt. Then the Exodus came about, okay? Now, this is funny that you got to think now. And they say that the Jews, during the time of the Exodus, was running towards the Red Sea, right? And the Red Sea rolled back and let them cross the Red Sea on dry ground, okay? And going into their promised land, okay? Now, no one questions this because you sit up there in the pews, you come in as believers. And when you go to church, you don't have to think. You don't have to think sitting in the pews. All they want you to do is come in and say, do you believe? Yes, I believe. Belief doesn't give you knowledge. I have faith. Faith doesn't give you knowledge either. And the minister, Reverend C.T. Chicken Wing, he is sitting up there. Wait now, America Ross said, be classic Walter Williams, didn't it? Okay. So the Reverend, he don't have to think it because he's got a book to tell him all the lies he wants to tell. And all he got to do is put, and memorize his stuff and have his little choir and his ordinance, and they be singing, yeah. And old Pharaoh, you know what I mean? Make it sound good, And so now it's a funny thing now. The Red Sea rolled back and drowned Pharaoh's army. Now, Pharaoh is and his army, they're on horseback, right? The Jews are on foot. You mean to tell me this? Pharaoh's army couldn't catch nobody running, some Jews running? You know what I mean? Huh? You're not thinking. You see that? Yeah, okay. Give me a break, Billy. So they tell you all these stories, right? But guess what? The Jews are taking all of that back. The only thing I can say to you all, I told you all, didn't I? Didn't I tell you all that? But you all you called up on the KGLH and want to beat me up and curse me out and talk about my mother and everything. Okay, but I told you all the truth. I didn't get nothing out of it. I still don't. I don't do this for money. I am doing this, my wife and I, we are doing this to liberate our African people in the African community. The only way you're going to be liberated, is that you are told the truth. Okay? And these white people are telling you the truth now. Okay? And from 1999, year 2000 and 2001, they came out with this kind of literature in different publications. But you got to be out there with your eyes and ears open, looking for this stuff as it comes through. You can't be sitting up in the pews of a church, believing in the Bible and all that foolishness. You can't do that. See, the time has come that you have to move out of that and you have to be told the truth. Okay? You have been lied to. Not only us as an African people has been lied to, the whole world has been lied to. Okay? And it's time for us to grow out of that. And the only way that you grow out of that is that you have to have knowledge to do that. You can't pray out of it. Liberation comes by you liberating yourself. I can't do it for you. You have to do it yourself. Okay? Now, you heard the words of different articles from the newspapers and magazines, etc., right? Now, it says no Abraham, no Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Sarah, Gideon, Esau, David, Solomon, and Joshua, right? Well, let's go back into those stories. Now, see, without Abraham, who is in the three major religions today of Christianity, thank you so much, who's in Christianity and Islam and Judaism. Abraham is in all three those religions, right? So now what happens is that you have to, and then they say from the tribe of Judah, which is supposed to be the great grandson of Abraham. See, Jacob was supposed to be Abraham's grandson, right? And he had 10, 12 children that comprised of what we know today, and you've been taught that it was the 12 tribes of Israel, right? One of those 12 tribes are Judah, okay? Now, Judah now becomes the great-grandson of Abraham. Is that right? Jesus is supposed to be part of that tribe, okay? So that makes Jesus the great-grandson of Abraham. You follow that? But they say there's no Abraham. So what happens to Jesus? Huh? Falls apart. You see that? Right in your face. Now, they're telling you that Hagar had a son for Abraham by the name of Ishmael, who's supposed to have been the progenitor of the Arabs and the Muslims. Is that right? But wait now. The Jews are saying there is no Abraham. So what happened to Hagar and Ishmael? Huh? Come on. No support, right? It's over with. Do you all understand that? It's over. Okay? See? You have to have knowledge and you have to have scholars to bring you knowledge. Okay? You cannot go to church anymore. It's over with. The dead white man on the cross. Take it down, throw it in the garbage. No good, no earthly good. Here you are worshiping an image that don't even look like you. Come on, this is my personal savior. And you got these ministers in these churches who are misguided and telling you and encouraging us as a people, come to and bring all your problems to Jesus. And that Jesus up there on that cross don't even look like the minister. You know, it's time out for that. See? So now they tell you, the Jews are saying there's no evidence, there's no Moses being in Egypt. Is that correct? Is that right? Right. Okay, now, Moses is supposed to be 13th century BC. And supposed to be the founder of a religion called Judaism. You see that? Okay, now, keep that in mind. So now, without a Moses, they say there's no Moses, right? Moses is supposed to be the founder of Judaism, right? What happens to Judaism? It collapses, falls, bam, come crumbling, boom, just fall down. Because there's no foundation there. They say there's no Moses. They don't told you that. See? You didn't believe me when I told you that, but now white folks are telling you that. So you'll believe it. Okay? So now, The foundation of the religion called Judaism collapsed. It collapsed. You know Moses? You see that? Then they said that that the Exodus story. They says never been an Exodus. So all that Jews running to the Red Sea, going to the Red Sea, and the Pharaoh's army was behind them, you know, and the sea rolls back and it's dry ground, and Israelites and crosses the Red Sea and drowns Pharaoh's army. Now these ministers are going to have to stop telling that lie now. Okay? Al Sharpton, he's good at that. Okay, and I like Al. I like his political views, but not his religion. Jesse Jackson is going to have to stop telling that lie. This is a damn lie. Okay? And any minister that you see get up in their pulpit and start talking about their own ancestors out of ignorance, about some kind of little Jews was in bondage in Egypt and about the old Pharaoh. And the old Pharaoh, that's his fault. He don't even know that. Okay? Now, every year the Jews practice what is known as Passover. Is that right? Passover is predicated on the Jews being in bondage and slavery in Egypt. Is that right? It's predicated on the Exodus. That's the foundation. It's predicated on the Jews being enslaved there, building the pyramids. Is that right? It's telling you that Joshua wandered 40 years in the wilderness until he came up on the promised land of Canaan. Hear my voice? It's like old chicken wing. He come up on the promised land of Canaan. You know what I mean? Or Reverend Chicken Wing, boy, he'd be getting down with that stuff. You know? And people, yes, Reverend. That's right. You know? That's over with. Now, Now the Jews are saying there's no Joshua, right? So the Passover that they practice every year is invalid now. It has no base to it. See, so you can sit back and laugh at them, say you all a bunch of damn fools and believing in this stuff, telling some kind of Passover. You see that? See, this is my lecture, The Jewish Myth Exposed. I'm exposing this stuff. See that? So now, then they go on and tell you that Jesus spoke Aramaic. You remember that? Oh yes, that's the language of Jesus. He spoke Aramaic. Now, they don't told you, but you have to have a Abraham before you have a Jesus, according to the narrative story. So how can Jesus speak Aramaic when there's no Jesus, no Abraham, huh? No Jacob, no Judah. That's a lie, isn't it? Then they're gonna tell you Aramaic is a language that was spoken in by Chaldeans and Babylonians and Persians and Hebrews. None of those names existed as human beings. So that's a lie. And they got people out here now, they don't create an Aramaic language out here to correspond with the lie that they got out here about Jesus speaking Aramaic. You see that? They got all this stuff, and they got big degrees in this stuff in college, universities, holding down seats. You know, this is Rabbi David Dombowski or somebody, and he's a scholar in Aramaic literature. See, and he fuss around, you know, propped up with all these damn lies, and people believe this stuff. So now all this stuff is being broken down. No Jesus, no Aramaic. See, that's a lie. See, now you can come up and say, well, wait, hold it. You're telling a lie about that. Then, what's the claim? The Israelis, right at this very moment that I'm speaking to you, is trying to claim the land that Joshua and Moses and the Exodus and the Israelites, you see, trying to claim land over in Palestine. They said this is the promised land that God, who had a covenant with Abraham, gave to the Jews. And they believe that stuff. Those Zionists believe that stuff. And will kill you and have killed thousands of people over this stuff. Over what? A lie. Straight up lie. That's correct. You see that? All this is happening all around you. But you have to have scholars to bring you information such as what I'm bringing you now. We're going to have to advance out of the ignorance that we're in. Okay? And you have to understand also something about your own human spirituality, so you won't get hung up in religions anymore. And I usually tell you about your own personal humanity, what you were born with, etc., but I won't do that today. As you all have heard, I'll come back next time and I'll incorporate that in it. But we're getting now to the Jewish myths exposed. Now, the Jews will tell you that they have a Jewish historian by the name of Josephus. Is that right? Wait now. Josephus, you look up Josephus, is supposed to be a person or a character that was born 37 AD, died 100 AD with a question mark. That's the first century, isn't it? So now, in the first century, there was no religion called Judaism. So how can this Josephus be a Jewish historian? Huh? That's number one. Number two, in the first century, there was no letter J. So how could it be Josephus? You didn't get a letter J until 1630. My wife brings it out in the Historical Origin of Christianity book in her chapter, the Historical Origin of the letter J, until 1630, by taking the I and bringing it down below the line and putting a curl on it. The creation of the letter J. So you didn't have no letter J back in the first century. So where's Josephus at? Secondly, when you go to the library and you get a set of Encyclopedia Judaica, and you look up Josephon, Jossippon, Josephon literature, Jossippon. The Jews in that literature, written in the Encyclopedia Judaica, will tell you that there was no Josephus. They'll tell you that right there. So if you don't go and read books and seek and search, they're not going to come and knock and tell you, hey, let me tell you something. There's no, I'm supposed to be a Jew. I'm going to tell you lies. They're not going to tell you that because there's too much invested there. See? So I got to go and do the research. I got to come and tell you. And I have to be beat up and cursed out and say I'm crazy and so forth, which is okay. I don't mind that. See? But I'm telling you the truth, though. See? They'll tell you there's no Josephus. No such thing as a Josephus. You see? So that's something that you need to study and do some research about this Josephus, everything else I've been telling you about. Now, if anybody heard of the Greek Septuagint, the Greek Septuagint is supposed to be a translation from the Hebrew Bible into the Greek letters, alphabet. They call it the Greek Septuagint. They're setting you up now. Everything you out here, they're setting you up. It's a trap. Don't run as fast as you can. Okay? So now, the Greek Septuagint is telling you this. They said that a spurious pseudepigrapha letter of Orestes, the word pseudepigrapha means false and fictitious letter of Orestes, a Jewish historian of the 2nd century. In that letter, he is made to say that during the time of Ptolemy II, the Greek ruler of Egypt, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, 283 BC, had Jews in Egypt who had been Hellenized. What does Hellenizing mean? Meaning that an individual is cut off from their native language, cut off from their culture, and taught the Greek way of life. That's Hellenizing, they call it, okay? And that these Jews living in Egypt, now back in Egypt, under the Ptolemy, they are downhearted because they can't read their Hebrew Bible. They can't read Hebrew anymore. They can only speak Greek. So in this letter, the pseudepigrapha letter of Orestes, this is how it's written up in your encyclopedias and your different Encyclopedia of Judaica, 1972 edition, or in the New Catholic Dictionary, New Catholic Encyclopedia. This is how it's written up. A pseudepigrapha letter of Orestes, false and fictitious letter of Orestes. Okay? Now, they're saying that Ptolemy II Philadelphus sent to Jerusalem to get 6 scholars, 6 from each tribe. So it ended up 6 times 12 is 72. Okay? So he sent for 72 scholars to come to Egypt. And this Ptolemy, Greek ruler of Egypt, that's what Ptolemy means, put these 6.
We actually can stop it right here. I know I got some people on the panel. Do y'all want to comment so far about what y'all think? What y'all about the brother Walter Williams?
Nah, he cooking right now.
He could, yeah. So it's a part 2. I ain't want to just run it too long without nobody commenting or so. Yeah, we ain't got no. If you don't want to say anything, I'm gonna just run it.
I wouldn't say he cooking though, but you know the brother talking.
Yeah, I like where he at in the conversation right now, especially with the talking about the Hellenized Jews. So that kind of reminded me of us in America, low key. I'm like, well, shit, that sound like us. Shit. As far as like speaking his English.
That's one of my gripes is the perspective that he's coming from is one that I believe is from a position of ignorance about what the narrative in the text is actually portraying. So that's the thing on that.
That's interesting. I love to hear that perspective too. Just, I'm gonna let them finish, and I'm gonna let you cook.
Went into Jerusalem and destroyed Jerusalem because the Jews were acting up against the Roman government. 70 AD, they tore Jerusalem, ran all the Jews out, and it's left just a wall that reminded the Jews. Now, I'm going to leave this here to remind you not to mess with us again. Don't cause no disruption. See? And that wall today is called the what? The Wailing Wall. Oh, man. That's 70 AD, right? It ran all the Jews out, right? 65 years later, you come up on the Bar Kokhba revolt. The Bar Kokhba revolt happened in Jerusalem. But it wasn't called Jerusalem. It was called Aelia Capitolina. No Jerusalem thing. See that? So now, how can the Jews got ran out by the Roman government under Vespasian and Titus in 70 AD, stripped of everything in the city, was stripped and destroyed, except for the Wailing Wall, or that wall. 65 years later, here they back in Jerusalem again, causing talking about some Bar Kokhba revolt against the Roman government again. Something is wrong. You see how that lie? See, the Jewish myth exposed. That's what I'm doing. I'm exposing the Jewish myth. Now, let's get to the Philosophians. Dun, 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 dun. The Philosophians of Ethiopia, the Ethiopian Jews. Here's how they set up the Philosophians. You listen. You heard of the story of Sheba and Solomon. Everybody heard of that story? They tell you that Sheba out of Ethiopia was so beautiful. And she heard about the wisdom of Solomon. That she had to meet Solomon. That she took an entourage to go from Ethiopia to Jerusalem. And they had donkeys laden with all kinds of gifts, the gifts of Solomon. And when Solomon laid his eyes on her, something happened. He said, I got to have something. What happened? And he laid with Sheba and impregnated Sheba. And she went back from Jerusalem back to Ethiopia. And she had a baby there by the name of what? Melanie. You heard that lie, that story? Okay. So now, since Solomon was supposed to have been a Jew, the baby Melanie is supposed to be a Jew. You got that? Following the rationale? Now, a lot of people don't understand about Christianity. They think that Christianity started with the Ethiopian Copts. No. All of Africa did not practice Christianity outside of the double-walled city of Constantinople, known today as Istanbul, Turkey. So the world's first Christian church was built in 532, finished in 537, called the Church of Hagia Sophia. That was the seat of Christianity. I broke all that down this past Friday. Outside of that double-walled city, you had no Christianity being practiced. Only monophysitism. Monophysite means one nature of Osiris, given to this thing that they call Jesus the Christ, which was called Serapis at that time. Serapis. It's in this book. Right? See? They said, the Monophysite on the Utaki said that this image that we known as Jesus Christ only had one Osiris-like spirit, but no human nature. That argument went on for 921 years. Okay? And I write about that argument in this book, The Historical Origin of Islam. So, this is what's happening, is that no Christianity was practiced outside of the double-walled city of Constantinople. So now here comes the Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France. Very, very important organization because they have done something to this to the people of the world. The Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France. You get a book called The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. They have a section in there about the Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France. Not very much. Okay, they just mentioned a few things, but they did a lot of things. Okay, they're the ones that sent those Jewish scholars over there in Syria in 1870, who collaborated with Christian scholars and Arab scholars to create the Quran. In 1870, took them 49 years until 1919, when the Arab world in Cairo, Egypt, accepted that Quran. Don't talk, please, because you're gonna miss something. Okay, that's one of the things that the Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France did. Now, getting back to the Falashas, the Alliance Universal of Paris, France wanted some Jews to be in Africa. See, because Christianity did not come to Africa only in the mid-19th century, in 1843, when these white European missionaries coming into Africa with the Bible. So you got to have a Bible. See, I can't come and teach you something without literature. See, it won't stick. See? You have to, I got to teach you something, and I got to give you some literature so you can always go back to it. See? Reference it. Preach it. Help. What you say? No. It's the wrong term right there. But I understand what you mean. Okay. Now, in 1867, very important, don't talk. 1867, the Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France, sent a Hebrew scholar, an Ethiopian scholar, and a Yemen scholar into Ethiopia. In 1867, a man by the name of Joseph Halevi. This Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France did this. He came into Ethiopia. Now, he knew that before he came in, 24 years prior to that, these Ethiopians had been introduced to the Bible by these white missionaries coming into Africa to do just that. And he walked up around in Ethiopia and he says, "Where are the Jews?" And the brothers and sisters over there said, "What Jews?" It said, "Wait now, do you know about Sheba and Solomon?" And Solomon impregnated Sheba, and she left Jerusalem, carrying Solomon's baby, came back to Ethiopia, had the baby. The baby name was Melanet. You're supposed to have some Jews here. So he set out because the Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France, armed him with all kinds of money, everything he wanted. He created among them and taught them a form of Judaism using the Bible to do so. That's how the Falashas was created. By Joseph Halevi, sent into Ethiopia by the Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France in 1867. Okay? And he set that up. And he got the elders in the village or in that community and taught them and told them to be in charge of this stuff, to teach others. So now, let's modulate up to, from 1867 up until the turn of the 20th century. The same Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France, sent a Turkish rabbi back into Ethiopia. Nahum sent him back in there to see exactly how these philosopher Jews was doing under the tutelage of Joseph Halevi. So he reported back to the Lions Israelite University of Paris, France, said, well, they're not doing so hot. So what happened, the same alliance sent Jacques Faithlovich in 1913 to come among the philosophers, and he lived there and he stayed there until he died in 1955. This is all history, and this is how you got the creation of the philosophers. When you read and study about the philosophers, they tell you, the first thing they tell you, they don't know the origin of the philosophers. First thing they tell you, we don't know the origin of it. I had to dig for this. So I'm telling you now, that's the philosophers. That's how it was created. See? And then over there, you got the Yemen. Over in Yemen, they got the African Yemenite Jews. They were, you got me. They were also indoctrinated by Joseph Halevi, because he was a Yemenite scholar, a Hebrew scholar, and an Ethiopian scholar. That means that he had studied the culture of the Ethiopians and the Yemenites, or the Yemen people of the African people of Yemen. He studied them. So when he came among them, he knew something about them. And when the illegal state of Israel was created in 1948, the first people that they captured out of Africa was coming out of Yemen. And they took them over there so they can have some validation to their lives. See, because our skin denotes ancient and old. So you get some of us to validate that, oh, I'm a Jew. So you look around at this African, you look at this white person, and you conclude that it's true. See, because, and then, when Nixon was in the vice president under Reagan, in 1984, they caused a famine over there in Ethiopia. And they called themselves airlifting the philosophers out of Ethiopia and taking them into Israel. You remember that? Okay. I said, that was Bush, George H. Bush. He was the vice president to Ronald Reagan at that time. So he did that. And those Orthodox Jews over there in the illegal state of Israel said, no, we can't recognize these people because they're not Orthodox. They was taught by the Bible, which is true. So I want to give you that little information on the philosophers. Okay. Now we're going to go to the Hebrew language. Okay, the Hebrew language. See, now over in Israel today, the illegal state of Israel, they speak what? Hebrew, right? Huh? They do. They got a form of Hebrew over there. That's the language of Israel. Okay. Now we're gonna get to the Yiddish part. I hear you back there. Anyway, in 1992, Edmund James de Rothschild began to go into Palestine, and he created 29 settlements over there for Jews to come and settle in Palestine. He bought into the electric company over there. Okay, Edmund James de Rothschild was out of France. He's part of that Rothschild banking family. Okay, and he met a man that influenced him to do that. A man who is the father of Zionism. What's his name? Who? Ron. Ron. name was Nathan Birnbaum. He is the father of socialist Zionism. 1990. Nathan Birnbaum. I'm sorry, 1890. 1890. Okay? 6 years later, you have Theodore Herzl coming up on the scene. The father of political Zionism. There's a difference between the two Zionisms. Socialist Zionism that was created by Nathan Birnbaum in 1890 says that a call went out to all Jews around the world, come into Palestine and squat, because now they want to force the Palestinians to give them part of Palestine to create a state or a homeland for the Jews. That's socialist Zionism. Political Zionism under Theodore Herzl in 1896 said, to hell with that. We go there and take what we want. We don't need to sit around and squat and wait something, beg somebody to give us a homeland. We take it. That's political Zionism created by Theodore Herzl. Now, we're talking about the Hebrew, we're talking about the language now. So I have to set all that up so you can understand where I'm coming from. Now, there was a man by the name of Eliezer ben Yehuda. In 1892, with a bright idea, went over there in Palestine to create and introduce a language to the Jews who came over there to squat in Palestine. Okay? He really wasn't successful. Now, in the meantime, it's not too far, 1892, 23 years later, what do you have? World War I. Okay? 1914. Lasted from 1914 to 1918. During that time, a language dialect was created for the Jews. That's called Yiddish. That's where the Yiddish come in. Called Yiddish. Okay? So my contention is this. The Jews are going to tell you that their original language was Hebrew, Old Hebrew. And you look up Hebrew in the encyclopedia, they have an asterisk next to Hebrew. They said a language that is dead, a dead language. Okay? So now,
Peace, Courtney. Did you have a comment about the video?
About this Hebrew?
I just joined. I'm watching.
Became the official language.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When the illegal state of Israel was created in 1948. Okay? Prior to that, what did they speak? To identify their religion? Yiddish. So my question is if you had Hebrew all along, why Yiddish? Why you come up with Yiddish? Huh? Why don't you have a continuation of Hebrew all the way up until 1948? See? So now, the Hebrew, Old Hebrew was spoken of where? Come on, I educated you. Where was it spoken of? Huh? No. Where was it spoken of? At? In the Bible. In the stories of the Bible. Come on, the Jews speaking Hebrew. It's all written in the Bible. You see? So their language, this Hebrew language, was carried around in a book, in the Bible. You see? Until they made it a human language in 1948. A human language. Where was Israel before 1948? Huh? in the Bible. They carried it around with them wherever they went. It's in the Bible. We're going to read about the Israel here. Read this chapter. You see that? See? Right before your face. See? The Hebrew language. No such thing. Then they horn in on our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, the only literate people that ever lived on earth. During the time of antiquity, our people, African ancestors over in Egypt, in Africa, had three forms of writing: the Meta-Neter hieroglyphics, pictorial symbols, which have never been deciphered, and the hieratic demotic phonetic script. Very genius script, because you can take a phonetic alphabet according to the sounds. You can write out what a person is saying according to sounds. That's what they call phonetic. They could do that except for the Chinese, the Koreans, and the Japanese. They can't write that with no phonetic. They have syllables. Now, so here you have this Hebrew alphabet. And I got the alphabetical chart right here in my Islam book. And it's the very last one to your right. It's telling you with these calligraphied large black block letters that they call Hebrew alphabet. They're taking it where they're getting it from. They're getting it from our ancestors. You see? Saying that this is a Hebrew script. No such thing. Like there's no such thing as an Arabic script. Arabs never had no script. During the time of antiquity, the only people on planet Earth that could read or write was our ancestors, because they invented a writing system. They invented the alphabet. And the alphabet can only be invented one time. Now you can have derivatives of the alphabet. Like the chair can only be invented one time. That's it. You can't keep reinventing the chair. No, you can take the chair and make a couch out of it, stretch it out. Becomes a couch. But the chair's a chair's a chair's a chair. You see that? See?
Peace, Silky.
So,
have Silky to the stage.
Here you
If
have.
you want to comment, if y'all want to comment at any time, let me know. I can pause it, and then we can comment. And
Our
then
ancestors during the time of
Yeah,
antiquity,
you can pause it now.
people on planet
Pause it.
Earth,
All right, for
all
sure.
the rest of the races living on Earth could not read or write because they didn't have no alphabet.
All right, so
So
what do you guys?
So let me break down what he's saying. He about 25%, maybe about 50%, 40% right. When he was talking about Osiris, he was right about that. The Phoenician script, how it was used to decipher a lot of other languages, he was right about that also. And then the ancient Egyptians, though, he's talking about Libyans. And then, not to mention, he's also talking about. Have you heard of the Gospel Mark writing in the Bible? Mark John Mark.
Yes.
You heard of Augustine? Right.
Augustine, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are Berbers. So he's not really he's not really that deep into his studies, but he's like on the outline. And like I said, once he's talking about the Libyans and the Osiris worship and the Romans and things like that, all of that's coming from Phoenicians and Carthaginians around that time. But that's still all ancient Berber stuff, though. Anyways, it's ancient Berber regardless.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I wouldn't argue with that at all. So is that where he's at right now in the presentation?
He's jumping around with his time frame. I don't like the way he's time jumping. I don't like he's shooting from like what thousands of years back to 19 and 15 and 1800 type shit there, and like 1950 and whatnot. I don't like the way he's jumping like that, but he's kind of, like I say, he's a little rough on the edges. But he's getting there.
Yeah, he's building up. He just starting. It's still early in the presentation, so we're gonna give him a fair chance and see what he got left.
I know who is the speaker.
whole thing. Let me think about what I said about
Yo, this King
This
J.
shit.
No, I got you. Who's the video? Who's
Oh,
speaking in the
this
video?
Walter Williams,
Come on, some Kenyan.
Professor Walter Williams,
Dr. Walter Williams.
Lying over there.
Dr. Walter
Tongue of
Williams.
Africa, unclaimed.
Get it right, get it right.
Descendants living,
All right, here we go.
born, and raised in America won't claim it. You're afraid to, you're cowards. That's what you are. You will not tell the world that you are an African ancient Egyptian. You rather say, I'm an African American.
You make sure your video was turned all
tell them
the
that you're
way.
black. You rather tell them
Yeah, I
that
did. I think
that you're a
this
Negro.
just was recorded, low. This video,
And you let everybody come along and take our ancestors away from us.
but the actual video is
The National Geographic in 1905 to hire a female forensic
my
artist
bad.
to reconstruct the mummy of King Tut. And when they reconstructed that face, it came out to be what? A white face. Huh? And you all went up in arms. White folks don't want Kemet. They want ancient Egypt. So stop using talking about Kemet. No such thing as Kemet. You cannot go to the world map and pick out where Kemet land is. It's not there. You cannot go and find any book.
Oh shit! Now he said ain't no Kemet. I wonder what the scholars say. We that's why they call him shit. Huh?
You'd have to have it on the map. If we ain't got it on the map, how far? Like the Kemet is I mean, it would be that's ancient Egypt. I mean, but then again, that's all Libya before it's even Egypt or Kemet or Nubia. So
I don't argue that point because I'm aware that I always make that distinction in the Nile Delta that a distinction between the population in the South in the Delta.
well, they just come together. Once they come together, that's when you're getting your so-called Egypt and stuff. But they was it's indigenous people that been out there way before all that.
Mm-hmm. So
You got trade routes
right?
that are set up.
I think
ports.
that's what it's always been. It's just like trade. The trade is what's been most important.
Whoever owns the trade routes and the language and the merchants, though the traders, the seafarers, those are your shakers. Those are your people that's really making moves.
Move. The nomads. All right, here we go.
Yeah, in ancient times they would call them pastoral, nomadic pastoralists.
Wouldn't Kemet more refer to a religion or a doctrine than the place?
To my understanding, it's kind of like what Silky said. To my understanding, like Egypt, when they say Egypt, I think the transliteration is they try to say is Het Kapata, but that's just a temple location in the Nile Delta. Transliteration Temple of Akkad, Memphis City State. That's that area, but I think at some point they from Aswan or at least from Thebes to the Delta, they call it all Egypt. So they try to say that it Kemet Egypt, but I've never seen any attestations where it's been called the whole land as Kemet.
That part, never. But let me just help you out just a little bit more. When they say so Egypt is the youngest, I think it's Kemet, then Nubia, or Egypt, Nubia, Kemet. But I know Egypt's the youngest, and it's supposedly Kemet and Nubia before that.
Mm-hmm. I do like the word. So Dr. Ben do got some work on Ta-Nehisi. So that's another word. Wawat, of course, is some indigenous terms for the geographical locations like the first, second cataract, Wawat. Then you got like the Semna Forts, Buhan, the Kus, remember, about the Kustal incense burner. So there's a Kustal. All of that. Go ahead.
They said the word Nile is coming from the Berber origin of Lilu, which means which is the first attestation for the meaning of water.
Would it be happy? I thought that the Egyptian word was happy, like the happy river. The Nile or Nilo was I thought was the Greek word.
You got Nile, yeah, you got that, but you got Lilu also for the
Lilu.
oldest. Yeah, that's ancient Berber.
Okay.
If I could, I just wanted to note on the point of some of his criticisms towards the literature, where as a person who I assume would have studied the literature and the text, and just barring a point of belief, right? Not from a perspective of belief, just say we're trying to analyze the literature for its validity in relationship to the people that we're studying. First and foremost, anybody who scrutinized the text will see that the people who today call themselves Jews don't fit the narrative that is written in the text.
Right.
So that's my first criticism, where I see people fall in a fallacy where you're trying to apply football rules to a basketball game, or in this sense, you're trying to apply the history of the Bible to a people that it don't fit. So therefore, you're going to find discrepancies and inconsistencies.
Of course,
you do have Libyans in the Bible.
No, I'm talking about the Jews.
Yeah, I'm just, well, I mean, like, they're trying to say they're chosen, but the Libyans are also kind of a people too, though. Like, they try to count the Libyans out and then focus on the Jews and Ethiopians.
No, I mean, for instance, what I mean is just for the people who call themselves Jews are supposed to be ostracized and cursed per the text, right? This is what they say. And the people who claim to be Jews have always had this argument that they have everywhere they've been ostracized and they've been marginalized, right? But if you look at history of these people, even though they were contentious in the places that they lived, they were wealthy at those times also, which is contrary to what the text say.
But and that's what I would say would be a trademark of Jews would be trade.
And that's contrary to what the text describes of the people we know as Jews, though. And I don't see how people who are quote unquote historians and scholars just seem to miss this blatant like.
When you say that's contrary, how do you, in what way so?
The Jewish stuff would be the youngest though. Like that stuff's not. It's a whole lot of people that come way before the Jews. Like civilization been booming way before the Jews came around. Way before the Hebrews came around. It was major empires. Like they don't even have no like. Where's their castles at? Like
no. See, my point is that if you go by just from the text, right? The text is describing a particular people. It says that women will be ruling over these people where you find them. Children will be their oppressors where you find them. And when they're in the lands of their oppressors, they will be at the bottom and not the head. Well, let's look at this. The Jews say that when they were in Germany, they were in the land of their oppressor. This is their story. But they were not the tail in Germany. They had banks, they had stores, they were very small population with a large control of the economy in Germany. That does not fit the narrative that when they're in the land of their enemies, they will be the bottom or the tail. So that right there just destroys them from a narrative perspective from the text alone as being the chosen people.
They don't even have that much nothing historical really to back them, right? Just that what the Moneta, that's about all they claim, right? Where it says Israel in that one text, and they guessing on that.
But I mean, it says Israel, but it don't attach to them necessarily though, because all right, the text say Israel, but how you identify who today Israel is, right? If the text says that Israel is supposed to be,
it's not for sure that it says Israel.
That part too.
Well, no, I'm just trying to validate them as a point of whether if it's fiction or a reality. I'm not arguing whether if it's fiction or reality. I'm just arguing the claim that these people say this book is about us, right? If you're saying that the book is about us, you should match the text. If the book says that you are going to be poor when you're living in other people's land, why is it that your history shows that you have wealth when you living in other people's land?
So are you trying to say that fits us in this country? That's what you're trying to say. It doesn't fit them, but it fits us.
That is actually a fact. Is not a claim that I have to make lightly. I mean, it is just the truth. And when we look at the people who are so called quote unquote Negro and affected by the transatlantic slave trade, look at them in any country. They have no power. They have no position. They have no pull.
I think we have economic power. I think at this point that we have some sort of power and control. Definitely economically. What we do with it may be another argument, but a lot of people groups, like we could look at the Irish when they first came in this country. They may have fit that. You know what I'm saying? How they were at the bottom. They were the first Negro, so to speak. You know, I
disagree with that. That history does not fit that, because also the Irish people were able to keep their identity, their heritage, their names. They were able to do trade. Once they completed their servitude, they were able to get land and do business. So that does not fit the narrative.
Are you saying they came over as indentured servants?
Yeah, that is a factual historical fact. They came voluntarily. Or through debt that they owed of a physical labor. You know what I mean? It was not a forced captivity upon the Irish people.
Okay, that's a fair point.
So with that notion, you know, there's no people on this planet outside of the Negro people that fit the whether if you believe it to be something that happened or not, or the people to actually exist. When it comes to what you identify as the quote unquote curses on the children of Israel, and what it says about their position when you identify them, the Negro people are the only people on this planet who fit that to the letter. And are you a Hebrew Israelite? It's also backed up by history. You know, you can point to things in history that actually, you know, confirm what I'm saying.
Are you a Hebrew Israelite?
Might well just say yeah.
Yeah, okay. Nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of different.
Well, see, that's kind of where we got a little confusion at right there. Because if the Berbers are the ones that's giving you your book and your translations and your information, you know what I'm saying? That kind of speaks high volumes. But let's go ahead. Let me pull up a source real quick.
I mean, who gives the book is irrelevant to whether or not the data in the book is accurate. I don't care if it came from a green man, blue man, black man, brown man. If he tell me if the data he's showing me that 2 + 2 = 4, I'm gonna have to just take it as true. What he looked like or his identity means little in the fact of reality.
I'm trying to talk about the origins.
I understand that, and I get that. I'm just saying, in the fact of reality, the origins of truth means nothing. The messenger means nothing if the data is true. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the messenger is, you know what I'm saying, he's the one giving you your truth.
But I mean,
unquote, but it's really not truth though. It's just enlightenment. But let me go ahead and show you though. So
truth can enlighten. Lies only darken. Lies leave you in the dark. You can't adequately defend yourself in a war if you're operating off of lies. If you are told that your enemy is moving to the left and you are trying to defend to the left, but they come from the right, you're going to lose because you're operating off of false information. You're getting caught in the dark.
Yeah, but I'm trying to show you like who's the one that's giving you your translations and giving you your breakdown.
I mean, that's again, who's giving the message is irrelevant to whether or not the message is true to reality. If you come and tell me that the sun is yellow, that don't mean who you are means nothing. Long as I can confirm that when I look up, I see a bright yellow ball in the sky.
Okay.
If a Berber is telling me that, hey, I'm going to, or if a Berber wrote the text that said there is going to be a people that spends 400 years in a land that is not theirs, serving and being afflicted by their enemies, what does it matter if I can go to the United States government, look at a bill that says HR 1242 that was passed in 2019, acknowledging 400 years of African Americans being in the English colonies?
Yeah,
so the curse is over now?
You're sidestepping right now. So let me show you. I got the source right here. So let me show you the source. So this is about St. Augustine, right? So a lot of people be thinking they really know where all this stuff is coming from, right? Okay. But let me read it for you. So St. Augustine, 354 to 430 AD, was a prominent early Christian theologian and philosopher from North Africa, modern-day Algeria, whose heritage was ethnically Berber. Though his family was heavily Romanized and spoke Latin, identifying culturally as African, so already he speaks multiple languages. Born in Tagastid, now Sac Ahras, Algeria, he grew up in a mixed Latin Berber environment. With his devout Christian mother, Monica, being Berber, and his father, Patricius, a Roman official. He considered himself an African and acknowledged his heritage in his writings, influencing. This is the key part you need to pay attention to. This is what you need to focus on right here. This is the key part. He has considered himself as an African and acknowledged his heritage in his writings, influencing the Western thought profoundly, despite the Vandals conquering his city as he died. So this guy right here influenced Western thought. So you know what Western thought is, right? You know what they're talking about?
I mean, I'm arguing against Western thought because Western thought believed that the Jews are the European people who come from the steppes of Russia. So that is direct Western thought. So I don't have a Western thought.
It gets deeper than that. Well, actually, no. Yeah, everybody. Well, first of all, they're talking when they say West. Do you know what they're referring to?
The European ideologies and the whole Western culture.
All that, and this Berber is the one that's influencing all that. But let's keep going though.
I'm not agreeing with the Western ideology and the Western culture. The Western ideology supports the people who are in the land right now as the two children of Israel when the text says something otherwise. The text says that the land of Israel will be trodden down unto the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles come to an end. So if you want to tell me that the people who are back in the land now are not Gentiles, that means the Europeans and all of them their time should be over with. But the people who are quote unquote Jews are back in their land, but the Gentiles still running shit. So they're again just not meeting the text. It don't fit.
But you're conflating, and then you're talking about stuff in the text from thousands of years back to today.
What does that matter?
What does that matter? You're conflating.
Did I write the text, or does the text not specifically talk about things that are to occur?
Your text.
No, you just showed me who influenced Western ideology. No. You just said this man was influenced by his mother, who was a Christian before him. So how could he influence? How can you? Western ideology. I'm not pushing nothing. Again, his mother was a Christian before he became an influencer.
Not his mother.
His mother was a Christian before he grew up. His mother was already a Christian. What you just read, if I'm not mistaken, it literally said that his mom was a Christian, a devout Christian.
Monica being Berber.
So his mom was a devout Christian. Hold on. I would assume that being a devout Christian, she was that before her son became influential. Maybe I'm operating under the assumption that it was his mother's teachings and his right, because his mother was African and his father was Roman, and he identified with his African lineage. So now, if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, correct me. You didn't say anything. You didn't say anything contrary. I mean, you didn't say anything contrary, bro.
Let me read it for you again.
Let him read it. Real quick. Just real quick, Sophie. Go ahead and read it.
Born in Tuskegee, Algeria, he grew up in a mixed Latin Berber environment.
Okay.
Latin Berber environment.
He's born in Algeria.
Let's keep going. with his devout Christian mother, Monica, being Berber, a Christian that's a Berber that's a Christian. Berber at heart. Christians come later, but let's not forget though, his writings influenced Western thought profoundly. This guy right here, all by himself, Mr. St. Augustine, that's giving y'all whole Christian teachings. Y'all don't even get nothing without him because he wanted the pipelines. Well, let's go on to the next one though. Like I said, we can move on to John and Mark.
We don't want to get too big. Silky, you don't have well. Let's play the rest of this video, and then we can comment.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you good.
We have Kemet written in it. It's not there. They tell you that this Kemet is derived from the hieroglyphics. I said the hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. What they're doing, they'll take a basket, a pictorial basket, and saying that that's K. Then they take the owl bird, O-W-L, owl bird, and say that's M. Then they say the picture of a loaf of bread, they say that's T, that K-M-T spells Kemet. How foolish can you be? And these white people, they don't want Kemet. You can have Kemet. They want ancient Egypt. They want our ancestors who built the Great Pyramid and who civilized this whole entire world. That's what they want. They don't want Kemet, so stop using Kemet. You use ancient Egypt. In order to be an ancient Egyptian, you have to be what? African. And you can be an Egyptian all day long. Anybody that's in the race, creed, or color can be an Egyptian. White folks, Chinese, Mexican, anybody can be an Egyptian. So go there in Egypt and you live and you say, I'm an Egyptian. Right. But you cannot be an ancient Egyptian unless you are African. Have to be an African. So stop telling people and don't be afraid that some kind of Kemet, that you are black, getting up on the television. Yes, I'm black. I just go there and just go to the bathroom and just puke. And these people got good minds. You know what I mean? These people get up there, they're no fools. Well, yes, they are. But anyway. But they saying about some Kemet, and I'm black, I'm African American, and all that kind of stuff. I heard over the weekend that this Pat Buchanan said some negative things about us as a people. You heard that? Okay. Anyway, he said, I haven't read the article, I haven't heard it. This is just what I hear from hearsay. That he said that we as a people, talking about you black people, should be glad to be in America. Okay? That white folks have, gave you your civilization and everything. You should be glad of that. What's your beef? You see that? And here you are, descendants of the greatest people that's ever walked this earth, known today in history as the ancient Egyptians, and you let somebody like a Pat Buchanan and some kind of little 15-cent white person tell you that you should be glad. When every white person that's walking this earth today, every white man, every white woman, and every white child walking this earth today are descendants of savages. Now, I'm not making this up. All you gotta do is open your eyes. Huh? White people have terrorized this whole entire planet of every human that's living within the confines of planet Earth, including themselves. Huh? Is that true? And so therefore, that's the reason why I say every white man and every white woman and every white child walking this earth are descendants of savages. I can make that statement and don't feel no remorse. Our ancestors did what? Civilize this whole entire planet. But the thing that really hurts me, you know the thing that really hurts me about that? You all are clapping, you know what I'm saying is true. Is that correct? But you won't claim and call yourself an African ancient Egyptian. See? You call yourself black. You let your leaders get up there and all your scholars get up there and call you black. How many times have you heard me on KGLH? You ever heard me use the term black, or African American, a Negro? You heard me, a lot of you all have heard me lecture many times, haven't you? I don't use that word, or those words. I never call you no black people. Never, ever. Can't do that.
Is it choppy for anybody else?
See? And when I'm claiming ancient Egypt, not gonna call you that.
No,
But
it's
now-
pretty smooth to me.
Here you go with these white folk gonna horn in on our ancestors' alphabet and said that this is the Hebrew alphabet. It's a misnomer. Okay, so I want to let you know that. Now I'm gonna get into the last segment of the Jewish myth exposed. So bear along with me. I know it's hot, you're tired, and so forth and so on. But we're going to have to deal with and understand about Jews. And you understand the lies that's been out here, right? But now you have an individual walking around saying that he's a Jew, right? A Jew is a nickname. That's all it is. Applied to a person who is a capitalist. Applied to a person that loans money. Taking in jewelry as collateral. Okay? That's what a Jew is. He has an insignia on the pawn shop of 3 balls. So that's his insignia. The 3 balls represent buy, sell, and lend. Okay? So if you want to, back then in the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th century, so forth and so on, if you needed some money, take your jewelry down to that old Jew down there and pawn your jewelry. So you got to leave.
We did say earlier that that was a trademark of Jews. Trade.
I never known Jews to be wealthy.
What?
Yeah, if
In
you would just
ancient
look
times,
at
in
I think
ancient times,
the
Jews
whole
were
banking
wealthy.
system, but I think the whole Rothschild, is he a Jew?
In ancient
Yeah.
times, were the Jews wealthy?
yes, King Solomon, King David. What are you
Always.
talking about?
Whoa,
The Jews always been wealthy.
really? I thought Mansa Musa, but you're talking King Solomon, though, right?
Who said? I
Yeah,
didn't. Don't put arguments on me. I never said. I don't know nothing about no
Okay,
Mansa
so-
Musa and all that.
And King
But I
Solomon
did do
said-
some research on Saint Monica, what we were just talking about, and the mother of Saint Augustine, and it shows on her. You can just go look on Wikipedia where her children were sick. I mean, when children were young, she was trying to get them baptized, but the husband didn't want to do it. And when it says Augustine, he fell sick, and Monica was trying to convince her husband to let her get him
No,
baptized.
he did
He
on
did-
his
he was a-
deathbed.
He was
Yeah.
about to do it, but then he changed his mind. So that goes back to what my assumption was, that it's his mother that was his influence of Christianity. So Christianity existed before Augustine's influence. So his influence may exist and be predominant, but that's not what I rely on or what I operate on.
Well, if you go a little deeper, I believe his mom is also a Berber god.
I don't know
Goddess.
about that. I just know Catholicism has a thing of venerating women that they believe to be of noble stature. So
Yeah, no, she's supposed to be a goddess, but yeah, Saint
With
Monica.
Augustine, he was of philosophical importance. on
He's
Western thought, and he
he's
was
the
a
one.
theological importance within Christianity because,
Everything. He was all
oh,
that.
can I just
Yeah.
finish real quick,
Yeah,
Silky?
go ahead.
Yeah, so he was philosophically very influential in the philosophical thought that came about within the Western culture, and theologically, same difference. And his influence is held very strongly amongst Roman Catholics and Protestants alike. So,
Yeah,
Hold
yeah.
on.
Ideologies I don't rock with.
Hold on. What? Hold on. Do you comprehend what he just told y'all? Right? Did y'all
Yeah.
hear what he just told y'all?
I can
I'll
His
break
word,
articulate
down.
any nuance, Silky. You
Let
his
don't
me
have to
break
word
try
is
to
down.
predominant
reinterpret
among
anything.
Protestants and
Hold on.
Catholics.
Let me break down what he just told y'all. The
I
reason
can.
why your Bible is so metaphorical, the reason your
That's not.
Bible is so metaphorical is because of him.
I disagree with you on
Is
that.
that what you said?
Yeah,
Is that what you said, brother?
that's not at all what I was saying.
None of
That's
that.
Okay,
not at
well,
all
prove
what
me
I was
wrong
saying.
then.
In fact, I'll say something even stronger that Silky ain't saying.
Go ahead.
Augustine has no influence at all over the transmission of the biblical text.
Agreed. His
Really?
interpretations, maybe, but not the goddamn translations, not the writings.
Interpretation,
He has
maybe.
no effect on the actual text. How different groups and organizations have interpreted that literature, he has greatly influenced. I agree with you.
The Western, but hold on, let me help you out more. Let me tell you what you're missing. He's also the one that added in historical stuff to the text. Y'all
I
don't even know.
disagree
Y'all are
with you.
going off his translations.
Do y'all
When
want to
did he
set up?
live again, Silky?
Y'all want to set up for a discussion later, possibly, Silky?
Yeah, we can run that.
St.
What,
Augustine,
Augustine? Say, oh yeah, Augustine. Yeah, we can run that.
you and the brother. Okay. Y'all can hit up A1 and watch it, man. Okay. All right, so y'all want to
And
get back
you
to
gotta
the
remember, they're in the province of Numidia. You know what Numidia is, right? You know what language they speak, right?
what language do they speak? What
Those are
language?
Berbers.
Numidians. Okay.
Numidia is just another word for Berber. It's another Berber tribe. Yeah.
Y'all gotta understand, Silky it exploits Berbers. So
Exploits.
He's a Berber exploiter.
yes. So this is why he's been emphasizing Berber as it relates to Augustine and his mother in particular. That's why he's
I
been
thought you
making
about
all
to.
these emphases.
His
Hey, I thought
Berber
you about to
roots.
say. I thought you about to say Casanat. Like, dang, you calling Casanat a Berber?
I'll tell you what I'll take. I'll take Augustine. I'm taking John Mark, and I'm taking what's the old boy that gave y'all Trinity? Tertullius, whatever his name is. Yeah, he's a Berber. All three of those are Berbers. So the person that gave you your Trinity concept, or at least brought it to the council, because they didn't know what to call it, because they couldn't comprehend. Once again, no philosophy. They didn't know what they was talking about. So he's the one that gave them that. Augustine, he's the one I believe incorporated the historical aspects and more the metaphorical things into the translations also.
But look, you just furthering my original point, bro. The Western ideology subscribes to like things that don't even exist in the text, like the curse of Ham. Nowhere in the text does Ham get cursed. So that ideology just okay, it might be persistent, it might exist. Yeah, millions of folks believe in it, but it does not hold up to reality when you read the text.
So that's interpolation. So you can show us in the text where it does not say that Ham is cursed.
No, you can't show me in the text where Ham gets cursed.
Or is it Canaan?
I can show you Canaan getting cursed. Right, Canaan gets cursed, but not Ham.
Wait, time out. Okay, hold on, slow it down. So if we're gonna talk about text, which exactly one are you referring to? Where are you pulling your text from?
The source. What do you mean?
They're both going to the Bible.
So this is strictly the Bible. Is that what I'm hearing?
Where's the? I mean, why would? Where else would we go?
What other text talks about this?
Bible. If you're gonna go off the Bible,
that's why I don't get when people act like.
But if you're going to the Bible, you're using the Masoretic for the Old Testament, and you're using the Texas Receptors for the Greek for the. for the New Testament.
Hell no. I hope y'all not using the TR for the New Testament.
Those are the primary sources for the King James.
The TR for the King James, sure, but
What do you think
not the New
James draws
Testament
off
text.
of? That's what
The
they
King-
draw off of for the Greek.
I hope we do not go to the TR for understanding what the New Testament originally states.
That's what
I really hope I understand that's what they had of evidence for. Today we have much more evidence, and we can get further back than what the TR got.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the King James or the Strong's Concordance at all. Actually, I prefer the Halak.
Oh, okay. That's just a lexicon.
Yeah, but it's the Hebrew Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament.
Do you have a Halo?
And the last time it been updated?
I don't
Early 2000s. You don't have it?
Yeah. I don't
Okay. I do, but I got you. It's just a lexicon. It's a foreign language dictionary that articulates how the term is used in an abundance of places.
But it's up to date. It's the scholarly source. They don't
It's
use
a scholarly standard lexicon for Hebrew and Aramaic.
Exactly.
Just like BDAG.
They're not going
just like BDAG is the scholarly standard source for New Testament Greek lexicon.
Right. But that's the problem with the King James. The King James doesn't draw off any of those sources. The King James doesn't draw off the Dead Sea Scrolls at all for the Old Testament.
They didn't have them. They didn't have them yet.
Exactly.
That's not a problem.
What the King James is off of.
So it really is outdated.
King James out the 1599 Geneva
The
Bible.
So ain't that crazy? The King James version.
There's only at maximum about a 12% difference in wording between the King James and your modern critical edition.
And it takes you from poly to monotheism.
It's a 2% difference in English translated words, but it's a 12% difference in the Greek wording.
So
according to the standard critical edition. No, that's not a significant difference, especially once you understand where the difference in the words are.
The biggest problem is not the translation. The biggest problem is that the words in English don't mean the same thing today as they once did 500 years ago. Right. English words have changed definitions over time. That's why a lot of people get the text misconstrued. The word unicorn did not mean what it means today 500 years ago when the book was written. Right, that is just a blatant fact. You know what I mean?
The transliteration that went from unicorn to the concept is a one-horned animal. It went from a rex, I believe, from a wild ox to a rhinoceros in the Latin to unicorn. That's just giving the concept still of a one-horned animal.
Right. Yeah, because in the Geneva Bible, you have Blackmore, and in the King James, I think it's like Ethiopian.
Yeah, but
but in the Geneva Bible, it also has a footnote where you find more. So you should at least consider what the footnote is, because it's part of the same translation.
The commentary is not the word.
That's not a commentary.
It is commentary.
The translation is a commentary then, if that's the case.
Tomato. We just telling you.
Yes, translations are commentaries.
The definition of the word shouldn't lose its meaning through transliteration.
Transliteration is not what we're talking about. Translation. Have any of you all actually studied the science of translating text?
Are you linguistic? You study linguistics?
I'm informed in the field of textual criticism and biblical textual translation. I've been involved in those conversations and studies.
Cognates, right?
Okay, and comparing text is all y'all doing.
Wow, this is more than cognates. This is grammar. This is interpretation and putting it into a different language, a translation.
But you're stepping outside if you're going to the commentary.
That's exactly why I wanted to bring up. There's rules to language. This is how they make translations and transliterations possible. Because even though we have different sounds that we're using, the concepts behind constructing a language remains the same across all languages.
Right.
Can we please leave the word transliteration off of the table? A transliteration is an attempt at phonetic preservation from an alternative language.
Exactly.
So an example would be, I don't know, those Nephilim. In English, we read in translation Nephilim.
No, the example would be
That is an attempt at preserving the Hebraic pronunciation of the term behind it. Nephilim is the Hebrew pronunciation, and Nephilim is the attempt at preserving that's the transliteration into English.
That's horrible.
Hey, you know what? Hold on. You know what? It's
Translating the word, you would get something like giant or strong men, renowned men.
I'll give you
okay, hold on. So can you tell me what the Hebrew word is for Africa?
Hold on, Sugar. That's totally off topic. Just hold on. Give me 2 minutes with the brother real quick. So when you gave that, I don't like that example of Nephilim, right? So if I gave you the Ugarit word ill, right? And then I gave you the Hebrew word el, right? That's a transliteration because those words maintain the same linguistic cognates. They still maintain the same meaning even through transliteration, correct?
Whoa, meaning is not conveyed by means of transliteration. Pronunciation and phonetics is attempted to be preserved in transliteration. Phonetics.
Exactly.
That's it. It's not trying to convey the meaning. It's only translating it would attempt to be. Translating would be. Translating would be.
Did you comprehend the point that I made? I gave you the example of il and el.
I said that is just like Nephilim and Nephilim.
Do you know how to spell il and el?
In what cognitive language?
Ugarit and Hebrew.
Well, in Hebrew it's Aleph Lamed.
And how do you spell it in Ugarit?
I believe it would be this. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you talking about? You're arguing for nothing.
No, you said you didn't like my example with Nephilim.
I gave you a better
being a transliteration, and then you gave me L. You gave me L, and I said that is a transliteration. And I tried to correct you. Transliterations do not attempt to articulate meaning. That would be a translation. So if instead where it says L, it might say power or God. So where it says L in the Hebrew, in our English translation, it might say God, God's power, something of that sort. Then that's a translation. That's not a transliteration.
So when the brother gave you the example of a unicorn, right?
Translation.
How was that a translation?
A unicorn is an attempt of preserving what was initially conveyed in the original language by means of meaning. A single-horned beast.
The word was ares.
Which is an ox.
Wild ox. And then so it was it was lost in transliteration because
it never was transliterated.
It was translated in Latin from that one horn to unicornis.
Unicorn.
Transliteration over time has evolved to unicorn.
Why though? Because they didn't have words in the English language.
We get unicorn from a transliteration. I agree, because the transliterations usually happen when the translators do not know what was originally meant, so they attempt to preserve the pronunciation of the term, not the best word, the pronunciation of their source text in the new language. That's how we get unicorn. So they were using a non-Hebrew text in that aspect. Whoever was the individual over that section in the translation of the King James, since that's what you want to go to, that's how you get it. If it was to be translated, it would say wild ox, maybe even rhino, as you said earlier. That would be a translation. And unicorn is technically a translation, but we get it in English in those verses because it was transliterated into English.
Okay, I like how you put that. I don't have anything to say to that.
Let me add
what, Latin, Coptic, Greek, and Hebrew? Aramaic?
Let me ask the fella a question. With everybody's understanding of linguistics, how do you apply that to or do you have a way to reconcile that with legality and how we know the law to be today?
What do you mean?
Oh,
The
legally,
system of law and the understanding of linguistics. How do you pair the two?
How words in law mean totally different. Like the word people may mean something totally different in law than it means how we're using it totally differently.
Ooh, that's one understanding. But not just that, but how the understanding of
Well, we got
language,
Amor on it, bro. Ain't the brother Amor? He gonna know that for sure. He know every.
And that is what I'm getting to, because
Right.
the understanding of contracts is all about language.
I don't know about that. Yeah,
you
well,
gotta
in the American language, because the American language is like a bastard language. It's kind of like devilish because it's multiple meanings and things like that.
That's why American language, the English language, actually was the language of traders. The English language was the language used. That's why English language is the main language for commerce today. The English language was used for trade. Right.
That wasn't the first trade language wasn't American. It was some sort of, I forgot what it was called, but there's some language they had where it was global, like all the traders, because they had to make receipts and stuff like that, I guess. So that's
it was Latin at one point. Correct. It was Latin at one point. Latin used to be, it was, I want to say it was Greek, then it became Latin, then it became English. But English wasn't the empire dominant language. It became the trade dominant language first, where all of the
trade language first,
right?
America?
So that's why a lot of
they was trading.
But that's why America is. I mean, the English language is so good at legality, or just so it can be so swift at legalities, because it has evolved as a trade language over time. That's why language is, I mean, like lawyers, we have some of the best law schools in the English places. They have some of the best law schools because it's built off of Latin, which is the parent to the English language. So it only makes sense.
Well, the Latin and the Greek, the Latin, all that stuff is coming from Berbers. And they ruled Spain for 800 plus years. Like they had all the colleges, all the universities. Like that was Berber. That wasn't like nobody else. Well, let me hit y'all with this source real quick. So I'm on the Hebrew word for Africa. I'll make this real fast. There isn't a single direct word for the entire continent Africa, as the Bible uses regional names like Cush for Nubia, Ethiopia, and Mizraim, for Egypt, often referring to the area as the land of Ham or Sham, but possible linguistic root connected to the Hebrew Afar. If y'all know anything about the Afar, that would be the Ifri or the Afri, and that's basically a Berber tribe. But let's keep going though. So Cush, the prominent name for the region south of Egypt, often linked to modern-day Sudan and Ethiopia, appearing frequently in the Bible. Mizraim, the Hebrew name for Egypt, major North African power in biblical times. Land of Ham, a general term for the hot southern lands, including Egypt and parts of Africa, derived from Noah's son. Now, this is the kicker. This is the goal. This is the point right here that you need to focus on. Libyum or Libyum refers to the Libyans or inhabitants of North Africa. That's all I got.
Yeah, we're familiar with the Libu, the Mazi. Different tribes.
The Hebrew, when they're talking about the continent of Africa, they're talking about their Libu is one that is referred as.
Libu.
Even by the Hebrew.
Would that just be a tribal name?
It is.
No, would that be bigger than a tribal name? Because all of Africa was called Libya at one time.
But before
all
that,
Africa was called Libya.
Not all of Africa, that North African part. So when you look at you got to look at the Herodotus map of 540 BC. You'll see Libya as North Africa. You'll see Ethiopia on there as well. You'll see Europe.
At one point in the Roman history, the Africa was just a region in North Africa.
It was a region.
Well, let me hit you with the source for that, Dan, since you're asking and you want to know. So let me hit you with the source.
Go to
So
the
here goes
540
the
Herodotus map.
It says, I'll pull it up in a second. It says, yes. So this is in classical antiquity times. Like, it wasn't just Herodotus. It was everybody that Herodotus studied from and stuff like that. Like, I guess it was common knowledge. So yes, the ancient Greeks and Romans used Libya to refer to all of North Africa or the entire continent. So North Africa for sure, or the entire continent. Thought it originally meant the land west of Egypt. Later, the Romans applied the name Africa to the specific province, modern Tunisia, western Libya. But Libya was still used for the continent in general. So Africa wasn't called Libya, but rather Libya was used for much of what we know now called Africa.
I wouldn't have too much contention with that because I would say that we know that the land was called Tamehu and Tahinu land, which is Libya. Those are
right.
Libya.
That part.
And those are indigenous people. So
those are back Berber tribes. Those are just ancient Berber tribes.
Yeah. So I don't have much contention with that.
So y'all carry on.
All right, yeah. So we'll jump back with the cut them up more count court. Did you want to jump in and answer the brother GMO question about what you know?
What was the question?
I was just asking about the pairing the legalities of language and contracts and how it affects history. Like you can find especially if you're more just study sovereignty, you can find many tribal names that you can find in ancient texts, biblical texts, in legal paperwork. So if we understand how language evolved and how things got named work from a legal standpoint, you can't have these contracts and agreements if these tribes did not exist in some aspect. Whether if it was a tribe going by another name representing themselves as a legal fiction, to claim descendant as a Canaanite is to say that the Canaanite people did exist in some form of capacity in reality, and to be accepted by the United States government means that they accept the existence of these people.
But you're talking about Moors. You're talking about Moors, and then you're talking about what the peace treaty, right? The Moroccan treaty.
I'm talking about the fact that you can find legal documents that speak on more than just Moors.
He's saying that you can find legal documents in legal records speaking about a lot of different ancient peoples groups. And if that has any weight or bearing on the legal system and the development of language, the evolution of language throughout history. Did I misunderstand that?
You got it correct.
Yeah, it's more like just lost classification. They try to, the more they keep moving on with the classification and translations and interpretations, the further away from the root you go.
Yeah, so Silky's the Moor. A court cut 'em up court is not a Moor. But I think you're going to find, especially in ancient records of ancient people, some historical families make affiliations in their own accounting for lineage to show that they are ancient people to ancient territories and ancient people groups. Silky's a good example of this to some degree. And that's not me trying to take a shot at them. I'm just saying there's people out here that do that. That's the best I got for that.
And
I don't really, the language develops everywhere. And when language develops, makes its developments, is doing it based on the nature of cultural society, changes, intellectual changes in the culture, or just colloquial usage. The technical people want more precise language. That's how we today get bosons and quantum physics. So it's more technical, it's more to be discussed, and especially in English. Other languages have much more limited word sets and an abundance and more of loan words into their language because of its initially smaller vocabulary or word collection.
But and then the way that the Americans play the lingo, some that can mean bad mean good, some mean good can mean bad. And that's
Well, not only
It's
that, Silky, but cut them up. Could you give us an example of how, like, as Black people, or me just saying that word, how we misrepresent ourselves or could better represent ourselves in court or
But
in law
hold on,
using better
hold on, real
words?
quick. There is no sovereignty. The Moors, they're not sovereign. They don't become sovereign. They don't get nothing special. They don't get no check from the government. They don't get no immunity, no get out of jail free card. None of that, man. Don't believe them stories. I ain't never. The matter of fact, you got to pay to be a Moor. You got to pay their temple fees. I ain't never been no Moor. I have been to their temple and I've talked to them and whatnot, like one on one, face to face. But as far as my studies and whatnot, like, yeah, no, they ain't no immunity and they don't get no special privileges.
Yeah, I don't believe that, but I do believe like they have excellent knowledge in regards to like court and legal. So I just want to know, like, get his knowledge on in regards to like how we should better like represent our like word usage, like what words should we say, like when we go to court.
Yeah, that's easy. Get a lawyer. Get a lawyer. I can't offer legal advice. I suggest getting a lawyer for legal advice and legal counsel and legal representation in the presence before you have to enter the floodgates. That's all I can tell you is to get a lawyer.
With that being said, if I could read something that I've actually represented myself in court, and I wholeheartedly disagree with the notions that the brother just put forth that you can't be sovereign. And I say it is the lack of information and it is the lack of knowledge that destroys my people. But I want to read this to you, just to the people that's listening. Hold on. Luke 11:52. It says, "Woe unto you lawyers, for ye have taken away the key of knowledge. Ye entered not into your cells, and them that were entering in ye hindered." And reason I bring that up is because you talk about the Moors who have the keys to get people out of the system that they want to so much get out of.
What do you think the Moors are doing? What, like, first of all, they're in their on sovereign, their knowledge is not really that, because they only stop at 1497, 11. They only go to there. They don't study no Berber history. They don't study no Amazigh history. They don't study no Moroccan history. So I really don't even waste my time with much of that Moorish stuff. But please explain to me what they do. If you're a sovereign, you get pulled over, what happens? Do they let you go free, or do you still go to jail?
And my apologies, I accidentally backed out of the live. But to continue what I was saying, the Moors, they have the knowledge to get you out of this citizen contract. And to say that you're not sovereign is to say that you're a slave. To call you a slave would mean
So when you
hold on 1 second. To call you a slave would mean that the Declaration of Independence is a lie. And that goes back to what I asked the brother about the development of linguistics and language and the laws that we have, because it says the powers of the government is given by consent of the people.
Are you sovereign? Are you sovereign?
1 second. Right? I have not exited the citizen contract.
How long have you been studying? How long
I've been studying this for about 10 years now.
So you've been in the temple 10 years, and
I haven't been in no temple. I haven't been in no temple. I'm not a Moor. I just understand simply what I'm saying. That's why I say the people, they have the knowledge to set people free, but they choose.
He's just applying the knowledge.
Right. So now what I have learned is that the information that they present out there is accurate and true. You can use that information
to live by the American laws. Like you can't. You still got to go by the laws of the land. That's literally what.
You can use the information to get yourself out of the citizen contract. Now they make it so strenuous. They make it so strenuous. If anybody has tried to get out of a contract, a divorce, or any kind of long-term any kind of long-term agreement, anybody can understand how hard it is to get yourself out of a contract. It's the same.
Bruh, you got locked up. Did you represent yourself with Moorish information and sovereign information to get out of jail, or what? Explain that to me.
It is the same information, right, that you
Tell us
run
what
into
happened.
every
Give us
day.
the details. What you got to do?
You
What you say? What?
you run. I'm telling you, bro. If you just let me finish, you keep interrupting me.
Go ahead.
Let him go, Sugar.
So, like I say, they have the information to get you out of the citizen contract. If you understand the Declaration of Independence and everything that they say makes you an American citizen, it is by consent. Well, by definition, the moment somebody presents you with an offering and you accept consent, you are under contract now. And no one can force a contract upon you according to the law. So if you have the understanding and know how to withdraw yourself from the citizen contract, it is a complete feasible thing because the services of the citizenship, police, fire department, things like that, these are quote unquote privileges that you get as being a citizen that can be taken away. If you were operating under your rights, no man can take them away. You have to surrender
So do you know a sovereign
through
Moor? Have
contract.
you ever talked to a sovereign Moor before?
I done talked to plenty of Moors and stuff like that, but the best thing I ever did was go in the front of a court and deal with a judge myself.
Okay, and you use Moorish sovereign information in front of
No,
that judge?
I use the
No.
Bible. I use the Bible and I use the law. Simple as that.
You swore on the Bible first off, but you hold on. You use the
No,
Bible.
no.
and
I
use the law.
read quote. I read scripture from the text. Right. Whenever see, one thing you don't understand is the court. You cannot submit anything into court that's not true. It will be thrown out the moment that is challenged and proved to be false.
Faulty,
If nobody,
okay.
if somebody, if you submit something and nobody challenge it, it will be assumed to be true.
Are you
The
saying
moment
your
somebody-
the statement they had on you was faulty or something?
Whatever you submit to court, that's the thing about court. It is about public record. You could submit many
Okay,
public
time out,
declarations to the court.
Wait, hold on. You're flying by. You're speeding. Slow down. So how did you go to jail? They locked you up, put you in the back of the cop car, and did you tell them you was a sovereign before they took you to jail?
What they got to do with the law? I'm talking about the law. I'm talking
So
about
when you
getting
get
out of a
caught-
contract.
okay,
I had said nothing
time
about
out.
going to jail. I'm talking
You
about
said-
talking to a judge. You can be under contract for speeding.
you
You
went
can
to
be under
court.
contract for You can be under contract for marriage. You can be under contract for speeding. You can be under contract for multiple things. You're just
So
going
you
to
had to go hold on time, man. You're jumping all over. You're talking about marriage now. Focus on one. So
You're trying to cut me off. I'm not jumping nowhere. I'm talking.
you're jumping all over the place. Like, so explain to me, you went to court on a ticket now? So now you had to go to court on a ticket. Did your sovereignty force you to go to court or no?
No, so he's not a sovereign Moor. He was just trying to say like the Moors have the tools to apply. He's applying the knowledge basically, right? And he said he worked for him because he represented himself in court. So how did that work?
Like, we can't get no information. He's supposed to be giving the information. We can't get none of it. Like, what's going on? And dog, from what I studied, them sovereign people, you don't get no special privileges, bro.
Yeah,
You
it's
gonna get
never
locked
worked
up like
well.
the next man.
It's never
You-
worked well for me as well. Like as far as you know,
You gonna get locked up like the next dude, and if you ain't got no lawyer to come get you out,
you got to be cold with it. You got to be real cold with it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure some people who
and
has
that's even if the judge gonna even let you talk, because you got to go through the DA, the counselor. Like what? And then you got to represent. Like I said, I know law. I'm a free world lawyer. Like I'm an in-house lawyer. I do all that stuff. So yeah, I definitely know the legal system. But as far as being sovereign, you ain't about to get try it if you want.
No, actually be locked to play with these. But yeah, let me just finish this little video real quick. The brother jumped off real quick, and then we'll finish the video, and then we'll open the panel back up.
All right.
Your jury with him. See, he was nicknamed and called a Jew. Has nothing to do with no religious Jew, nothing. None of them lies that they put in the Bible, talking about the Jews and so, had nothing to do with that. You see that? Buy, selling land. That's his insignia. Now, but you got to go a little further than that now. I'm show you where you have to study. You have to, in order for you to know really the origin of the Jew, the foundation of the Jew, you have to study and go back and study the Lombards. The Lombards That's what you got to study. I'll tell you. That's the reason why you came here. I told you we're gonna have class today. We ain't gonna come here, listen to me preach. That's out. You come here to listen to me teach. Okay? Do like Bush be telling you that. Oh bastard. The Lombards originated in Germany in 543 ACE, AD, if you want to use that. I don't use that term. Anno Domini, that means after the death of our Lord, and there's never been no our Lord to have a death. Okay? So they came and originated in Germany in 543. Okay? And they left out of Germany. Just use your phonetics. Don't worry about how to spell it. Just use your phonetics. And then you understand when you read your note, you'll understand it. He won't understand. I won't, but you'll know. So don't ask him how to see. You take it. He can't listen to what I'm saying. You miss a lot of stuff. Anyway, the Lombards started in Germany in 543 AD. You want to use that term? I don't use it, but I'll use it for clarification. And they migrated from Germany into Hungary, and then from Hungary into the north of Italy in 568 under the leadership of Albion, Albion. I was their leader at that time. Now, who are these Lombards? They started off as a rogue gang, taking, stealing, pillaging, so forth and so on. Okay, now they're in Italy, the north of Italy. They eventually got control of all of the natural resources of Italy and controlled all of the commerce of Italy. And they began to call themselves dukes, and their wives as duchess, and so forth. They royalty. They're the Lombards. Okay? And they had problems with the monarchs of Europe in different spots. Over in England, they had a problem with the monarch of England, and they were being taxed without any representation, and they called and created a document called the Magna Carta. That's the English Constitution. Just like the U.S. Constitution, the Magna Carta was a constitution for England. Okay? Now, these Lombards, now during that time, gold and silver was your money. So these rich monarchs sitting up there fat and greasy and otherwise, okay, with all this gold and silver, sitting up there, fat cats, right? The Lombards got something for them. You know what they did? In the beginning of the 1300s, they created paper money. With a usury tax. And they opened up the first bank in Italy. And the second bank was opened up in France. You see that? Starting your banking system. You can loan money but with an interest. You see? Became capitalists. You see that? They're nicknamed and called Jews because they can loan money on collateral. Okay? Then I spoke on this, but in a different way, with different information, and put it into what I'm about to say now. they, the Knights Templars hooked up with them. The Knights Templars became their tax collector. When they loaned money to different monarchs, in order to get their money back, the Knights Templars were their agent. It's like the IRS is the agent for the United States government. You see that? The United States government borrowed money from the Federal Reserve. Okay? And who collects the debt for that United States government? IRS. So they had back then the Knights Templars. See, if Brother James wanted to borrow some money, then you come and see the Knights Templars. He was a Dhimmi banker. Dhimmi, D-H-I-M-M-I, banker. And Jesse Jackson got in trouble by calling the Jews in New York what? Jaime. You take the D away, what you got? There it is. You see that? Jaime. So now, who collected the money for the Lombards or the banking system? Huh? Knights Templars. Now, if James went and borrowed some money, he wanted a sum of money on maybe a piece of land or whatever he may have to put up, other than jewelry. And if James had paid the Lombards back, the Lombards sent for his boys, the Knights Templar. I come around to see James. Hey, Brother James, how you doing, man? Huh? No, you be dead then. Won't have to worry about it. Knights Templars take care of you. See, so that is the beginning of the Jew, a nickname given to a capitalist, an individual who loaned money at a high interest rate. Not no Jew. Forget about this religious stuff. Throw all that out of your mind. We're talking about in human reality now. That's the Jew. Okay? Has that same Jew that loaned you money and nickname called Jew, he could get less than a damn about a religion called Judaism. He don't go to no synagogue with a little yarmulke on his head and all that little kind of stuff, talking to wailing wall hitting his head. He ain't got time for all that. See, you see, you got time for that. Loan you some money at high interest rates, if you don't pay it, then you have the problem. If you can go see a movie called The Merchant of Venice. Anybody seen that? The Merchant of Venice. See that movie? You can maybe rent it at the store, at the video store. The Merchant of Venice. And he's talking. See, the moneylender is nothing but a Shylock. It's another name for the moneylender, a Shylock, called a Jew, and so forth and so on. So now, I have given you some information that you can really digest and ingest about the Jewish myth exposed. Did you understand what I was bringing forth? Yes. Okay. So I'm going to end my lecture, and maybe Brother Merikara can come forward, and I can end my.
Professor Walter Williams, give it up. Professor Walter Williams.
So yeah, that's the end of that. So yeah, that's the end of that. Brother, do you have any questions before we open up the panel?
I might have thought I must have came in late. I thought the talk was on historical Jesus. origin, or at least origins of Christianity. Maybe I missed that part of this conversation.
It was well, that's the actual what Walter Williams' whole presentation was about. That's the actual name of his presentation is the historical origin of Christianity. So, did you not hear any or context of what he was talking about when and what he was saying?
When I came in, it was right before he started talking about the Hebrew language.
Okay.
The Jews spoke Yiddish. They didn't have a language, but no, it was preserved in the Bible. And then that was where I came in at. So I guess I missed all his origin of Christianity stuff because that's not Christianity.
So would that not be? I mean, at that point, there is no Christianity at that point, correct? So that would be an origin point.
When are we saying? When does he say the origin of Christianity was?
I don't. We have to replay that. I can't give you the exact point, but I think I definitely was in like the Roman period. I believe is what he's saying. Or after. I forget how he broke it down. But he goes through the different councils as well. So maybe after the complete Bible would be a compilation after it's all compiled. But yeah, he started.
They had complete Bible 100 years. The same canon that's found after Athanasius' festive letter is 100 years before that time as well. The same New Testament collection. It's in Homilies on Joshua 7.1. It's actually for the introduction from Origin.
What's the year of that canon?
It's 100 years before the Council of Nicaea.
So
during the time of the Church Father Origin.
So around 200 BC, AD, 220, 223 CE.
200s, yeah.
Okay. So
and then a little before that, that's 3rd century. And by the time you get to the 2nd century, you got the 2nd and early 3rd century, you got manuscripts, whether it's we have manuscripts of the Bible that have been found from those periods. As early as the late 1st century, according to some dates of P52, and as late as 2nd century for P52. But P52, P104, like there's manuscripts from the 2nd to 3rd period century. So that would be the 100s and 200s. And we get not to mention you got a text in Peter where he's saying that Paul's texts are basically functioning as scripture. Or literally, he says they're distorting the words of Paul the same what they do with other scriptures.
So that's like Paulinian text. People that's their own doctrine, so to speak.
Yeah, so he has early attestation as functional scripture, being read and taught alongside scripture.
And what would those be? Because Peter would be contemporary with most of the disciples in their writings. So, what would he have used? The Pentateuch?
They always would have been using some form of their communal Old Testament text. They would have, whatever community that they were based in, they're using that communal linguistic platform of the Tanakh.
Rather it would have been Eusebian, whether it would have been Masoretic, whether whatever.
It would not have been Masoretic, but much of the Dead Sea manuscripts actually seem to be in line with Masoretic texts. Masoretic system is just primarily a vowel pointing system.
So you would have the Palestinians, Babylonian, and they're what? The Masoretic. Tiberian. I'm sorry. Tiberian.
Mm-hmm.
Tiberian, Babylonian, Palestinian. So, but the Masoretic tradition is the one that kept going, and that's the one that we know today. Is that correct?
Essentially, it's in particular, I think it's what Codex. Codex, the Leningrad Codex, I think is a standard Hebrew text that's used for textual criticism.
Okay, I'm familiar with that. Okay, so what do you think? And so what do you think? Because that's where we have the Nakuts added through the Masoretes. So what do you think about how they're you mentioned different sects that may have had different pronunciations, possibly different. So the Essenians, for example, right? I wanted to bring that point up earlier. Their outlook over the text would have been very different than anyone else. Is that safe to say?
You mean like when they? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to speak out of ignorance.
Of the Essenians. So the Essenes were supposed to be a so pure of a sect, just so I'm summing it up, so to speak, to whereas they went off on their own to worship in their own pure form, right? And they're supposed to have kept the tradition in its purest way, in its purest form. And therefore we have the Dead Sea Scrolls. But they literally believe that God was in the sky. Like those. So
go ahead.
Yeah, they believed in the pantheon of the Elohim, right? They believed they were literal. So when we speak about polytheism, right, that would have been their viewpoint of the text and their outlook. And so when we see interpretations of Ben Elohim, right, son of gods, right, that's literally what they're thinking. It's a totally different theology, in my opinion, when we look at it through a Masoretic text and we see literally sons of Israel, right? That's a monotheistic point of view, and it's make everything is taking the plurality out of everything. So what do you think about that?
I think the text, the Bible as a whole, it has a development of particularities regarding Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
Like the most you get about one Yahweh is in a text where his name is mentioned twice, and today it's used sort of as a creedal statement. And that's Deuteronomy 6:4. But it says he was a Had. And so I mean, like, but then by the time you get into like Isaiah and the 40s, you start getting I am alone, I am the one, I am he, I am the one that has no peer. Like I'm the only one. Like it's very, very more particular. It's a developmental theology for sure, but it's also within the cultural surrounding paradigms. So I don't think it's trying to get more and more mono. Well, I do think it's a commentary to Masoretic construction. I think all of our understandings are including commentary because it's a pronunciational situation to certain degrees. And so that's an issue, but we have to take it into consideration and understand the methodologies that were being employed during these time periods to understand how at least the New Testament literature was interpreting the Old Testament literature to articulate who Christ was, because that's all they did. You know, like you look at Mark chapter 1. Mark chapter 1, just like the Gospel of John, you don't have a birth narrative. You don't have nothing. Holy Mary and birth.
I want to just stop you real quick, just not to stop you, but just to build and just get an understanding, because I would assume you associated Jesus with Yahweh.
Well,
Just do that.
about to get there
Yeah,
real quick.
and then, but you spoke about earlier the introduction of Yahweh. I'm thinking you in referring to like the Pantheon reduction, to where he was introduced into the basically synchronism, right, and assimilation. If we look at Deuteronomy 32:8, we'll see him introduced possibly as a son of El, which I disagree. I would never make the argument that Yahweh was the son of El initially. That to me is when we see the synchronism, the introduction of Yahweh, and then we slowly see him take to the top of Elyon, the most.
Wait. Where did you get the him being son of El from again?
Deuteronomy 32:8.
I don't see that at all going on in that text. You have an eponym being used, Elyon. It's not El Elyon, it's just Elyon.
Mighty.
And
Yeah.
and I think it uses the name of God. Even in Deuteronomy 6, we see what is an actual proper noun versus a common noun.
Common noun, yeah, we do. But just hold on.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So epitaphs, right? So we know that Elyon is an epitaph of El, correct? Not of Yahweh. So that's
yes, it is. It's an epithet of many deities in ancient Near Eastern literature.
not in the
It's even an epithet of human rulers.
But not in the Levantine area, not in the land of Canaan. So we're looking at Yahweh as being a Transjordian Edom deity, not local Transjordian deity, not Highland deity.
You know, the Transjordan is just like
Highland,
just east.
Yeah, it goes into south. So that's where Yahweh would have his origins from my studies, not in the Levant at all. So therefore, that's why we have the introduction to Yahweh later. So my argument will always be to any Hebrew or Israelite that the original deity of Israel, where we see the name, the theophoric name Israel with the deity El in the name, worship would have been El. Later assimilated through pantheon reduction to Yahweh, right? So
don't agree with that.
Really?
Yeah, because in ancient Near Eastern culture, El has what is widely believed to be a iconography body. They made sculptures of El. They've had statues in El for Els back then.
They had different depictions similar to
even for Most High, even for the El Elyon in their culture. They had Els. We have items in museums we could go to today that allegedly have El, that particular I'm saying that depending upon the context, but I'm saying here, Elyon, in the Deuteronomy passage you're mentioning, Elyon isn't already an epithet for Yahweh.
Correct. That's a synchronism.
That's not a synchronism. That's just using the language for your own cultural, religious purposes. Again, it can be applied to humans in the same cultural set.
I'm not cutting you off, but I'm just want to give you the proper context. So that Deuteronomy 32:8 verse comes from, off the top of my head, Ugarit.
The distribution of the land.
Yeah, it comes from the Ugarit, KTU 165 or something like that, right? The ball cycle, right? Where Il, right? Portions gives district to his 70 sons, right? So that's where we get that from.
Is Yahweh in there?
That's the whole point. So that would strengthen my argument. That would strengthen my argument that we have a Ugarit creation story with him, his 70 sons, and Yahweh is not mentioned as one of the 70 sons.
Okay, well, that demonstrates Yahweh is not one of those, not from that pantheon, because there's no evidence in any known pantheonic cultural cycle of a Yahweh. You only get the possibility of that in light of the biblical literature.
What other pantheons do we have besides the Canaanite pantheon that have those particular deities with Il? We see Ibla. We even see theophoric names in the Ibla tablet that contain Il.
Saying that they have cultural ethnic ties to the Levant, so that's not a problem. That's part of their ancient cultural heritage.
And we see
this
no
is
Yahweh.
What they kept. They didn't. Yahweh is not involved in that explicit understanding of religious material. You just mentioned the Baal cycle, where Baal is doing things with the children. That's Yahweh's not mentioned, so you can't say he's part of that cultural cycle. And again, in the Deuteronomy passage, there's many scholars that would disagree with that type of connection and suggest the opposite. So it doesn't necessarily strengthen your point, especially when you don't even have archaeological suggestive evidence that Yahweh was ever part of a Baal cycle, or that a Baal cycle is being articulated here. I think this is Yahweh keeping for himself his portion, and that's the Israelites.
When do we have our first occurrence of Yahweh into the period? Or even
I would say the oldest portions of the Old Testament are the Song of the Sea. So Exodus, a section in Exodus, their commemorative understanding of their exit. And then you also got the Songs of Deborah.
So that doesn't date anything. That can only date latest to 800 BC?
Wow, they actually are more likely dating to the 13th century BCE, early 12th century BCE.
So you're dating the Exodus to about 1450 BC.
No, I do not date the Exodus to 1400s. There's no evidence of an abandonment out of ours during the 1400s. There's plenty of life activity and continuing to go on. The only time we have population abandonment out of ours is around the reign of early to middle period of Ramses' reign, or the early to middle 19th dynasty. So this is going to be during the reign of Ramses and Ramses II. Ramses III is not even part of the 19th dynasty. He's 20th dynasty. He's Ramsonite, but he's not 19. Anyway, in the middle of Ramses, probably sometime after the Battle of Kadesh, just shortly afterward, that was when they abandoned Avaris and the land of Goshen. And this is about 40 years later, well, 10 to 40 years later, you begin to see their early settlements appear in the Levant. And we can primarily, according to Finkelstein, identify Israelite settlements in the Levant by means of no pig. Less than 1%, less than 0.5% of pig population or evidence being shown there. Less than a half. So
we have Myrna Patah Stella.
Yeah. This is before Myrna Patah Stella, because even Myrna Patah Stella, see, the Egyptians only identify tribal or ethnic identity when the Semites are not in their land. So we know that whoever they encountered after Ashkelon and Gezer, destroying these people groups, whoever he conquered, and we have evidence at Gezer that he was quite destructive, he did his thing.
So can I make a point right there just to show you archaeology, how Yahweh is nowhere to be found in this area, right? So we're in the Levant at this particular time, right? which is we're gonna keep in mind that that's gonna be synonymous with Amu tribes, right? So Beni Hassan mural is an example I could use as the primary source that show the Amu, right, coming in from the Levant. Not Yahweh, right? So I would want to use the Solib inscription, right, which dates to about 1450 probably BC, that talks about the Yahweh of Seir, the Yahweh of Reuben, the Yahweh of the Shashu of
the Shashu.
Reuben. So exactly, and so we see these we see these are particularly located in a particular geographical location.
Find it, well, they're in Seir. We don't know the exact coordinates, but they came out of Seir. But I find it interesting you went there, because one problematic thing with that, if you're recognizing the individuals, Reuben, and some of these other individual chieftains that are Shashu, Bedouins, and then you come to Yahweh, you instantly, hey, deity, or Yahoo, you say it's a deity, but you're not saying it's a deity for everybody else. That's sort of inconsistent and special pleading. Likewise, there's no evidence of any of these titles or these type of Shashu or these Shashu being deities.
Right.
They seem to be people. If they're people, they're chieftains and not a mention of a deity. So if anything, that's an individual named Jehu or Yahoo.
Well, it hints of a land to where that deity was be worshipped at.
It's not a deity. So
the Shashu of Yahweh, right?
It's not okay. If all of these are place names, then if you want to take them as place names, then you're not saying it's a deity.
Well,
you're saying that these are locations within the territory of Seir.
Where that particular
with Bedouins,
where that particular deity was worshipped and becomes synonymous with that particular tribe.
Okay, what tribe? Shashu?
Well, Shashu just means nomadic. So
so what tribe are they affiliated with?
So within these Transjordan highlands, within Seir, that region, which is not in the land of Canaan, right? So that's the point that I'm trying to get to see. If they're making distinguishments between Yahweh groups, right? And then, so that's 1450 BC. We go to Amara.
I don't think they're identifying Yahweh. You have to see, you're just asserting their Yahweh groups.
Well, hold on.
The majority of archaeologists, Egyptologists deny that it's a reference to deities. Because you cannot special plead one of these many Shashu that were collected and brought back. It doesn't mention the Shashu as being a religion cult or a cult. It just mentions them the same way they mention the other chief leaders.
But we're going to
Shashu of Reuben, Shashu of this, Shashu of that.
Right.
Whatever. So, if they're chieftains, then it should not be understood as a deity. You're trying to special plead your case without actually demonstrating it's a deity.
Just hold on. I'll get to that. So when we get to 1250 BC, around that time period, we go to Amara West, we have Ramses III, right? And they're talking about these same groups, right? These are the same groups, and they're identifying them as Shashu Yahweh, right? This is the time period where you're saying concurrently in the Levant, there is the Mernah Betah, which is the son of Ramses, right? Saying that we have the first occurrence of the word Israel, right? So I would make an argument that if they were the same people, it would have been Israel. It wouldn't have been you know what I'm saying? Like so there's no archaeology, there's no anything that's saying that these should be the same people group. They're different nomadic tribes. We have Amu groups, we have Habaru groups, Aparu groups, Shashu groups.
Whoa. Abaru are not an ethnic social.
Yeah, they are also, but you understand, like, yeah.
I understand that you can't put them in a social an ethnic clan community. That's not what it was a derogatory term in many texts. It meant mercenary outcasts and people that lived on the outskirts of society, things of that sort. Cave dweller.
I'm not familiar with any occurrences of Amu being described as Shashu. Most occurrences of Amu, I would say directly would translate to
Aribu and Haribu. That's what I was referring to, not Amu.
Yeah.
But actually, they would be so in Egyptian literature, which is where they call all Levantine Western Asiatic people that are living in the land, Asiatic, Rechenu. So like that's what they call them, and that's it. Like they don't maintain as urbanites, as citizens, as people that are doing slave labor by building up cities, especially during the reign of Ramses II, in the area where the Israelites were granted territory earlier, probably with Hyksos people. It doesn't correlate, because once Ramses begins to build that territory across the Nile, like literally 2 kilometers away, called P. Ramses. P. Ramses is huge. Huge. And
who do you say builds that?
Ramses II. The Israelites were there building the storage cities and silos for probably temple cult observance. And they did it for there and Pithom or Ethom, and in certain translations. But that location is actually, they have contemporary archaeological foundations being planted in the ground at both locations.
Are they worshiping Yahweh?
This is in Egypt. No, they're not. They begin to worship Yahweh in the wilderness. They had an understanding of possibly, in order to follow Moses or whatever Moses was doing.
So to my understanding, and I did a presentation on this, the mechanism and the transmission of Yahweh comes through Jethro and through Moses. That's
yes.
So,
and the Levites.
So so before then, where is there any history in the Levant of worship of Yahweh?
I would say no. Some scholars suggest that you get an I am that I am statement in the heavenly book of the cow, which goes back pretty far. But I would say no. And again, I do not think the Shashu of Yahoo is a reference to deity. It's a reference to humans. It's a reference to people, not their deity. If it's a reference to deity, then it's all of the other people that they capture that are also called Shashu, they're also deities. We don't have any evidence like that in the dirt in Edom. And it's beginning to be groundbreaking archaeology over there. It's not a lot that's been done. There has been some that's been done, like the turquoise mines, suggesting earlier piety locations in Edom before it becomes a national state.
You talking about Serabi El Kadem?
Possibly.
That's the only turquoise mine that I'm familiar with within, that area. They found Proto-Semitic script, I believe, as well.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just familiar with when we even look at Jacob, right, and Bethel, right. What does Bethel mean?
House of El.
House of El.
House of God.
But in that instance, it's not used as a common noun. It's used as the proper noun for the deity.
No, it's used as a common noun.
Bethel. So Jacob's ladder, right? The vision, the deity that he sees is El. Because
Well, hold on. If it's theophoric in that sense, then it is a reference to whatever their deity is. Because it's
Exactly.
also in the singular, it's not in the plural.
Mhm.
So it's a singular entity that is present.
El.
But again, I'm suggesting the earliest account we have of Yahweh, at least according to certain critical scholars, would be Song of the Sea, and that's dating to the early 12th century BCE.
Well, I definitely enjoyed the build, brother. We were only on today till about 4 o'clock, so we're getting close to that time. So if you want to close out with any closing words, brother, and you're more than welcome to come back to the show anytime, so just close out.
Shouts out to the panel, shouts out to the boss, shouts out to A1. Everybody like, comment, and subscribe. Peace. It was appreciate talking to you, beloved.
Definitely enjoyed the conversation. Titans, scholars and guests of the chambers, the sun has set on our arena for today. We have walked the dusty roads of Judea and navigated the complex halls of Rome. We have debated the origins, the manuscripts, and the movements that ignited the flames of Christianity. Whether you leave here with new answers or even deeper questions, remember this: history is a mirror. To understand where we are going, we must never stop looking at where we began. The panel is now closed. The gates of the Titans Debate Coliseum are barred until next class of intellect. I am King J, and this has been the King's Chamber. Carry the light of what you have learned into the darkness of the unknown. Walk in wisdom. The session is now adjourned. Peace.